All right, and we are live, and I am here with probably the two most hated men on the internet. Matt Forney and Common Filth are joining me.
Hola, senor.
All right. Yeah, live via Common Filth, live via Mexico.
I'm on the lam. They're after me.
So it's been a hell of a week, hasn't it? It's been one hell of a week. I'm not even sure if we're on the air. I should double check. We might not be allowed. But before we get into the politics, I just want a bit of a lighter story. Just some slice of life stuff. I went to the mall today for the first time in a while. And the reason I went to the mall is I was going right by it, and I was actually looking for a specific movie. Razor Fist had been talking a lot about the Shadow movie from the 90s. And I thought, I'm going to check that out. I saw it once, but like years ago. I think I'm going to give it a good honest shot. So I'll go to the movie store and find it. Well, first I want to check Suncoast because I know FYE has turned to shit lately. So I go where the Suncoast is, and it's gone. It's like some fucking purse store now or something. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go to FYE. Well, FYE is no longer a movie or music store. I don't think you can remotely call it that. This is a relatively big store, and maybe 10%, probably closer to 5% of the floor space is devoted to the movies and music combined. The rest of it is just junk. Just fucking Funko Pops and some sort of cereal bootios having to do with wrestling and t-shirts and just that gross candy from Japan, like just all that shit, just piles and piles of shit. Now I don't have the
about
same
Pocky.
Yeah, Pocky, and then that like those little fruit gummies that just taste nasty. Like it's supposed to be a strawberry, but it's like a strawberry that went bad. And like I don't even have the visceral hatred of Funko Pops that a lot of people do, but the sheer fucking number of them everywhere is obnoxious. So yeah, it wasn't there. I couldn't find it. People complain about, oh, you have to go on like Amazon is took or gerbs, right? Well, I tried to go to a brick and mortar store to buy a movie and I couldn't. So I'm going to go on Amazon and order the fucking movie.
Well, Amazon did kind of, but they really did shove that segment of the market out of the retail space.
It's sort of a vicious cycle, though. I mean, I still like going to a movie store. I like the idea that, maybe there's some failed film student working the counter who knows every damn movie or something. I like that experience. I like going to a store for something, because first of all, it's, if nothing else, it's doing something. It's getting out of the house and going somewhere and being around your fellow man. And there's also, sometimes maybe you don't know what you're looking for. You go to a bookstore, a movie bookstore or something, you're just looking for, a movie to watch or a book. You don't have a specific thing in mind. And that's something that Amazon's really not good at. Amazon's great if you know exactly what you're looking for. If you don't, not so much.
Retail space has been dominated by merchandise. We really because of the digitization of content, the retail space, like what you're talking about, FYE or even a Hot Topic, it's just pure merchandise. So you could get licensed stuff based on movies, but if you want the movie itself, well, you're shit out of luck.
Well, the problem with the digital stuff is that you don't own it. That's why I can't get behind the digital stuff. If I buy a DVD, then I own that DVD. It's not tied to my account on Amazon or my Comcast account or my Netflix account or anything like that. It's an actual thing I own that I can keep forever, or I could sell, or I could choose to be buried with like a fucking pharaoh if I wanted to. It's mine, Where you don't own it if it's digital only. And that's the thing about digital only, is it should at least be cheaper. It drives me up the wall when digital costs the same as a physical product. I know Nintendo games are like that. I look at like new games on the 3DS eShop, like actual new first-party Nintendo games, and it's the same price as going to buy one. I'm like, yeah, they fucking mine. Like, that's ridiculous.
Well, the other thing with digital projects is that they can introduce the greater potential for censorship. I mean, this will tie into what we're talking about later in the show. But there was a case of, I think it was either UC Berkeley or some other University of California system announced they were going to digitize their entire library of books by X date or wherever. And when you do that, and they were going to destroy the original, paper copies of the books and get rid of them. Well, you can, destroy works that are inconvenient to the narrative. You can censor existing works, and no one will be able to know because the paper records, they just went up in smoke. We saw a story of Return of Kings reported on this early in the week. There's this Swedish museum that's been unearthing Viking artifacts, but for some technical reason or other, instead of actually preserving them, they're melting them down into scrap metal, stuff like that.
That's just ridiculous. And again, it's even worse with paper because, I mean, yeah, look, if the Pulse comes tomorrow and there's no power or anything, yeah, I guess I'm shit out of luck for playing a video game or watching a movie. But I can still read a book. I can still light a damn candle and read a book. There's no reason to get rid of the paper trail.
Yeah,
unless it's for censorship.
Yeah.
I mean, I like my Kindle. It makes me, it makes traveling a lot easier because I don't have to carry 8 million books with me. But at the same time, yeah, there's a great potential for this. For all we know, it's going on right now.
I'm not saying digital doesn't have a place. I can definitely understand the appeal of having a small device with this massive library of movies or games or books or whatever. Years ago, I had on my computer the first 500 issues of Amazing Spider-Man because I downloaded a program off Marvel.com that I had all of them on there. I ended up losing it because that computer shit the bed. But yeah, it was convenient. It was nice, but I don't know. I still prefer physical, especially with books. I prefer physical medium. As Stan Lee said about comic books, they were like boobs. It's all well and good to see it on a screen, but you'd much rather hold it in your hand. But yeah, I don't know. It just was a shame. It's like I just want a fucking movie. And this movie store had a weaker movie selection than Target. I would have probably better luck finding this old movie at Target. Because, they generally have the new movies. Go ahead.
Even the big box selection stores, they don't have necessarily the biggest selection. What they have are like the $5 DVD bins or the $8 Blu-ray bins. And maybe you could sift through that and find it, but it's very unorganized.
Yeah, a place like Target, it's usually whatever's new and hot, and then just some oddball old stuff here and there. But that's basically what I had at Suncoast, or I'm sorry, FYE. I had, actually, I think my retro game stores have shelves of used DVDs. They have far better selection than FYE now, and that's like a secondary thing they do in this area.
Well, again, it's like we live in this age where the only physical thing that people want are pieces of merchandise rather than the source that merchandise is based off of itself.
And I mean, I like the stupid plastic figurines and shit as much as the next nerd. I have goofy shit like that on my shelf and all, but there's only so much of it I want, and I also primarily want the actual things they're based off of first. But yeah, it was just frustrating, because people complain, it took her jobs, but you're kind of feeding into that. I mean, a retail store has to be the kind of place where it's fun to go there. It feels. That's the other thing that struck me. Like they had stripped out all the carpet, and it was this weird tile floor. But I mean, it almost. Like they were done renovating and the place still felt like it was under renovation. Like it just was unpleasant being in there.
It was just junky.
Yeah, it felt like somebody who had a bunch of merchandise to unload just rented this empty fucking store real quick to get rid of it. I told this story before on here, but I worked at Suncoast, which FYE ended up buying back in 2004. And this was the beginning of the end for these places, in my opinion, because this is when they were starting to push all that stupid shit like get our club card and get 3 free weeks of Entertainment Weekly that you'll forget to cancel and we'll charge you for. And this was 2004, because I remember Spider-Man 2 had just come out. And this woman, kind of middle-aged woman comes up to the counter with Spider-Man 2. And this is right around Christmas time. This is early December. And I'm chatting her up. I'm like, are you getting this for like, a Christmas present? Oh yeah, my son really loves Spider-Man. I was like, well, you should check this out. And I showed her the 60s cartoon had just come out on DVD. And I'm like, this is almost never shown on TV. He's probably never seen this. This will make a great gift if he's a Spider-Man fan. She's like, oh, okay. So I sell this like $50, $60 box set of this whole cartoon, right? As well as the $20 movie she was getting. And she's happy with it. The store's made more money. She walks out the door. The manager bitches at me because I didn't try and get her a 3-week free subscription to Entertainment Weekly. And it was right at that time where I'm like, I'm not going to be here long.
That whole upselling thing is just a function of the declining retail revenues. Because I think that was around the time when online shopping really started to become viable, and all that upselling was a reaction to it.
Well, that's the point, though. I upsold her something she actually wanted, and the manager wasn't happy with it. Because the only thing that mattered to him was the magazine numbers, because that would be the first thing his boss, no doubt, would ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a mess. Well, speaking of a mess, this past week there was a little get together down in Virginia, and it didn't go well. And
standard federal prison party.
As a result, all hell broke loose. I mean, I could go through the list, but I mean, a bunch of people have gotten run off tons of stuff. Apparently, our good buddy Grinder Greg, his site has lost its PayPal or something like that. I believe
he lost his PayPal, and pardon me while I break out the world's smallest violin.
Even people had nothing to do with it. Like in the aftermath of it, like Laura Southern was thrown off fucking Instagram of all places, and I mean, all she does is post pictures of her fucking hedgehog, and that's not a euphemism, by the way, folks. Get your mind in the gutter. She has a pet hedgehog. But and then the guy that got it the worst, and I do feel bad for him. I mean, you can certainly argue he brought it on himself, but is Cantwell. Cantwell got thrown off fucking everything. I've never seen a guy more systematically deplatformed than this guy in the last few days. He got thrown off YouTube. He got thrown off. I think the service provider for his website changed. He had to quickly move it over or something. I don't know if he, as of Saturday, he was still on PayPal. I'm not sure if he's still on PayPal now.
He's been banned from PayPal.
He's banned from PayPal now. Okay, well, Saturday he was still on there. Okay, so he's thrown off PayPal. It went so deep. This guy got thrown off OkCupid. All right, this guy got thrown off everything. All right.
Next, we'll be hearing about how he's been banned from supermarkets in New Hampshire.
It's unreal. And you know what? I like Cantwell. I don't know him personally. I've chatted with him a little on social media. I've enjoyed his show over the years, over the past couple years. Last year, I know he was going through some rough stuff. He was on a bit of a spiritual journey. He was heading closer to God, and instead of moving in that direction, he threw his lot in with guys like the TRS guys, Richard Spencer, guys like Weave, and he is absolutely ruined as a result of this. Now, Cantwell has always been a fuck-up. Cantwell's always been good at getting himself in trouble, but never has he gotten himself in more trouble than when he started hanging out with old Dickie.
Basically, he's completely ruined. I don't think he'll be able to go back to any sort of normalcy, even if
Cantwell will be lucky to be working at the rate things are going for him, barring some sort of miraculous turnaround in that guy's fortunes. He will be lucky to be a manager at Burger King in 6 months' time.
Yeah, and it's all because he trusted Richard Spencer to lead him.
And you know, there's a spiritual dimension besides the fact that Richard Spencer is a massive fuck up, and people around him seem to pay the biggest price for his fuck ups. You know, trouble finds Richard Spencer, and if you bring pre-existing trouble to the table, he'll magnify that shit. But
yeah,
there's also a spiritual dimension.
They're following this trust fund kid. He's a fucking trust fund kid that could just fall back on his giant pile of money. He can act the fool all he wants and suffer no consequences for it. Fuck, he's more of a Bush than Jeb.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Jeb's at least a nice guy. He'll give you a little ceramic turtle when you're down.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer could choose to walk away from all this tomorrow and go back to his true calling, which is organizing dinner parties and skiing in Montana. The people who have been affected by his stupidity, well, obviously, they are culpable because they willingly chose to follow him. They take the blame. Whether it's Cantwell or Jason Kessler or Fat Mike Enoch or these other people. Yeah, they're all varying degrees of fuck up, but they all trusted this guy, and now they're completely ruined for it.
If
Kessler's going on he's mentally breaking down. Enoch is mentally breaking down, probably going to be facing a federal investigation soon. All these other people have been completely deplatformed. Sites like Amren and VDare that had nothing to do with Unite the Right because they're smart enough not to get involved in that kind of shit. They lost their PayPal accounts as well. Spencer hasn't even tendered an apology to these people. Or Baked Alaska. Baked Alaska is a guy who may be legally blind because he got not maced, but hit in the face with hydrochloric acid. Spencer's a man of means. Why not, offer to pay his medical bills?
And that's the thing. Because, look, people would be like, oh, Spencer's a leader. Look, if I was Spencer and I had led this shit show and people are getting fired and people are getting no platform and a motherfucker's blind in one eye, I'd be giving out some money for lawyer fees or medical fees or trying to set you up with a new job or something. Because, you know what? That's the thing about being a leader. It might not have been your fault, but it was still your responsibility.
Yeah, the buck stops with you. That's something I've constantly seen from these leaders of the alt-right. Constant buck passing and trying to blame other people. Like, I actually got in an argument with Jason Kessler over this a few days ago because I was pointing out, the leaders of the people who organize this rally need to own up to responsibility. Yeah, you were set up by the government. Yeah, all that happened. You should be upset about it, etc. But ultimately, the buck stops with you. And he comes in and he says, well, you can't actually prepare. You can't have a plan B when the entire city, state, government comes against you. And I was trying to be nice to the guy because, I kind of sort of liked him at that point. But the thing is, dude, you had a right-wing rally in a heavily Democratic city in a heavily Democratic state. Did you expect that they were going to play fair by the rules? What do you think this is, 1959? You thought they were going to play fair by the rules when we have evidence of Trump rallies being bird dogged and infiltrated by Democratic operatives all throughout the past 2 years, and you thought they were going to leave your rally alone after the ACLU went to bat for you. I think maybe the ACLU was in on it. They decided to force this rally to go through because all these leftists wanted this conflagration to happen, and Kessler and Spencer couldn't see any of that.
Yeah, and well, Spencer, I mean, the worst you could say about him is he's some sort of fad. He's turned. The best thing you can say about him, the best thing you can say about him is he's an attention whore, and he's just always got to have that hot load of attention in his face. I think that's why he never even has any security and keeps getting punched, because punching's a form of attention, and he doesn't ultimately mind it.
Well, he's probably a sadomasochist too,
Yeah, he likes that rough trade shit.
But, I mean, seriously, the best you can say about this guy is that at a certain point, isn't all this race realism supposed to be about pattern recognition? Or when the fuck are you going to apply that pattern recognition to Spencer?
Well, once you notice it among your own, it's purity spiraling.
It's
the guy is either turned or he's a massive fuck up or he's cursed like a fucking monkey paw, all right?
Well, they're cursed because they worship a fucking cartoon frog that symbolizes chaos.
Well, that's the other thing. There's ultimately a spiritual dimension about this. Cantwell is a perfect example. That was a guy who was going through the ringer. He was, and I'm going to go all Christ cuck here. He was heading towards God, and I would pray this rock bottom brings him towards that because I genuinely like Cantwell.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's heading in that right direction, and then he turns around and he goes towards the absolute darkest corners of fucking white nationalism. I mean, guys like Weave, and I mean, I'm sorry, maybe I'm wrong about the guy. I've never met him, but that guy makes my skin crawl. In my opinion, that guy's either a fed or just an outright psychopath. And when you throw your lot in with people like that, shit's going to happen to you.
Well, in the case of Cantwell, the big thing that happened to him over the past couple of years is that he got out of an awful relationship with a woman with borderline personality disorder. And having dealt with a BPD woman, I can empathize with him. The problem is that he chose to cope with it by throwing his lot in with the butt stuff jizz, to the point where up to the rally, he was advocating, in all sincerity, white polygamist communes to save the white race. 2016 Cantwell, 2015 Cantwell would have spat on 2017 Cantwell. Would have called him a fucking moron. I wasn't even listening to his show up until, for recent months, just because I have to hear these TRS inspired ideas that could have only been conceived by someone who never leaves his fucking house.
When he was talking about all this polygamy shit, I'm like, this isn't like some post-apocalyptic after the zombie attack thing when we have to repopulate. How fucking bad do you think things are that you think you have to escape to a? It sounds like something that they like. Again, it's like you're watching too many fucking shows or something. I don't like you just lost your grip on reality here. That doesn't. You're not going to save the white race that way.
Well, it's like that folk wisdom about what happens when a good kid falls in with a bad kid. Usually, if the bad kid doesn't become good, the good kid becomes bad.
I would say that it's not usually; it's always.
Well, I was trying to be nice, but whatever.
And again, I like Cantwell. It honestly breaks my heart to see how bad off he's doing. I mean, I don't have a lot of money right now. I've really needed to watch myself, and I tossed him $5 Saturday night, and I was like, throw this towards your legal fees, or I don't know, get yourself a soda or something for whatever shithole motel you're hiding up in, but cash it out now because Lord knows how long you'll be on PayPal.
And you know what's even more astounding? Well, I guess it's not really astounding because the alt-right basically has become a fucking cult. They think they won. I keep getting people accusing me of being black-pilled because I pointed out how, having a rally in which you completely got your shit pushed in and one person from the opposing team got killed by a brain-damaged neo-Nazi retard who beat his mother. And they think, oh, we won. The people are on our side. Look, the polls show that people support, our side. Like, no, the polls show that people support Trump when he said that the alt-left. That's the other thing, too. When Trump went out on Tuesday when it was, and he said, oh, yeah, there's the alt-right and then there's the alt-left, and the alt-left is causing violence, blah, blah, blah. Everyone suddenly was like, Trump is our guy. Yes, he's going after Antifa. You idiots. Don't you realize that he lumped the alt-left and the alt-right together? He said that you were equally bad. And he's bombing the population for the two of you to be purged.
The best thing you could say is that he defused a fucking bomb you lit. That is the absolute best thing you could say.
And the other thing that's stupid, what Trump said, and they think that, oh, Trump is our guy. He says racism is evil. We have no place for this hatred and bigotry in our society. That's the only thing they believe in. Is racism, and Trump condemned it.
And Bechtloff, someone is going to reignite that bomb again because there are stupid TRS, alt-righters who think like Trump is our guy, and they're going to try and organize a Nullen March. And this time, the government's really going to go down on their asses. Bad enough got the FBI investigations and the civil rights investigations and all that. Maybe they won't get it until they finally have an outright Ruby Ridge moment.
Honestly, I think what Trump's going to end up doing is he's going to crack down. He's going to end up cracking down on both sides. It's going to be, all the kids are fighting, and the teacher comes in and tells everyone to sit down and shut up. I don't care who started it.
Well, plus the other thing too is, I've been trying to explain this. Trump is basically an agent of what I like to call the nationalist Jews. There's the globalist Jews and there's the nationalist Jews. Trump's primary, reason for being in office, for being supported by them, is to ensure Israel's existence. The alt-right does not factor into that because the alt-right is anti-Semitic. So is the alt-left. So is the globalist left. As you can see, like the Democrats are now anti-Israel and all that. That's his primary concern. The alt-right, and that's why I've been saying for the past few days, if the people in the alt-right are going to survive, they're going to have to start supporting Israel because otherwise you're going to get purged. That's why for the past few months, we've seen left-wing Silicon Valley types like PayPal and Google and all these companies purge alt-righters, and the president doesn't do a thing, even though they were some among his bigger supporters. He doesn't want them around. He wants the population to be traditionalist-leaning, at least somewhat, but not not alt-right. And these idiots don't seem to get it. I mean, I think they actually did think he was going to start the cattle cars, It was so easy to get an overtly anti-Semitic movement to support a guy with a Jewish daughter for president. And that's why they had the nervous breakdown in April, because he betrayed me, like acting like a teenage, girl who's been dumped, like, I'll never love again, What did you expect was going to happen?
Well, for being so politically savvy, they don't seem to understand the concept that there are people who, are not on your side. You may just find your goals aligned with them at certain points. Like, they don't seem to grasp that basic concept that there's times when this person is not necessarily your ally. You and him just happen to be shooting at the same thing.
Yes, and what the alt-right, anti-Semitic alt-right was allowed to exist last year because they were useful idiots in helping attack the left. Now that Trump is in power and the nationalist Jews are securely in power, they don't need the alt-right anymore. And we're going to watch, or the alt-right for that matter. We're going to watch both sides gradually, they have been gradually destroyed over the past year due to external attacks, but also due to their dumb fucking egos. When you get dysfunctional people together for a dysfunctional cause, you get dysfunctional results. And then that's exactly what we're seeing right now.
Well, I mean, I just earlier today, I had a post on the Bechtloff Facebook page and part of the rant was, maybe rallying around an effeminate fucking this closet case attention whore proved to not be the best move for the alt-right. And the one guy's like, everybody's attacking Richard Spencer and not offering alternatives. And I just responded like, I'm telling you not to drink poison, and you're mad that I'm not pouring you a glass of iced tea instead. Just go get your own damn drink. Just don't drink that.
Well, it's like what Common Phil said on the episode of Common Phil Radio we did after the Syria bombing. Activity is not achievement. He was like, well, at least Richard Spencer's going out and doing something. Yeah, he's doing something wrong. He's doing something stupid. He's doing something that's completely counterproductive.
What it boils down to is self-service. He's doing what's good for him, what'll get him more clout, more attention, more notoriety, because that's all he wants. He's got all the money he could possibly spend in a lifetime. That doesn't matter to him. He just wants the attention.
And what else I can't help but notice is that, Cantwell, perfect example. That guy's been thrown off of everything from YouTube to OkCupid. And what's deplatforming Richard Spencer? If anything, the media can't seem to get enough of him.
Yeah, because he's a perfect boogeyman. He could be controlled very easily.
Cantwell actually believes in what he says. He might be able to actually fire people up to real action. We can't have him around.
It's insane because they're claiming like they won. You're getting deplatformed. You're getting financially blacklisted. You won when you're giving them more reasonable cause to do these things to you. And Trump doesn't give a fuck, like Matt Forney said, like on one of your live streams. You said that Trump met with these Silicon Valley people probably to say, hey, go easy on me and you could ban whoever the fuck you want from your services and I won't make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, well, Spencer, these people lack I swear to God, looking at the alt-right, it's almost justification for the Jews ruling over white people because these people they have no concept of strategic thinking. They have no ability to look out in the future. Like,
this is your paragon of the white race. These are the cream of the crop of racially aware whites, and they're all fuck ups. They're all retards. It reminds me of this one idiot. He's like some tranny, right wing tranny. He's giving me shit. He called me a cuck once, and I'm like, dude, you cucked your own chromosomes. This is who's like, we need to stop Islam. We need to defend the white race. These are your shining examples of racially aware whites.
Well, just on Twitter today, I was like, or maybe it was yesterday. I'm sitting there. It's like as I look at the fiercest opponents of white nationalism, I can't help but notice that they tend to they inadvertently make a good case for it until I look at actual white nationalists, in which case they make a good case against it.
Exactly. Here's a perfect example. This is something I found out today. There's one of Spencer's lieutenants, this guy named the Big KK. He used to be the admin of the alt-right Discord before they got banned. And he was also present at the Charlottesville rally doing a major live stream. This guy, the Big KK, big alt-righter, called me a cuck. He's a furry, a Satanist furry who's dating a female-to-male transsexual. This is one of Richard Spencer's most trusted lieutenants.
And, you know, you're not going to get any kind of, if you had any hope of a white ethno-state, there's no way you could possibly hope to achieve it, let alone sustain it, without salt of the earth, God-fearing, K-type, working-class white people. And you think any of them are going to hop into a fucking movement led by that effeminate weirdo Spencer?
Well, here's a funny story, actually. You know, my parents were aware of the whole Hailgate thing because it was fucking national news, and they had known I was going to NPI because I was moving out of my apartment and I was dropping some stuff off their place. I went there day before the NPI conference. I go and visit them for Christmas a month later. They asked me about the Hailgate thing because I knew I was there, and my mom is like, "Is that Richard Spencer guy gay?" Now, keep in mind, my parents are both, you know, like Republican, moderate conservative, you know, Trump voters, you know, Trump country, upstate New York, the kinds of people you would think would be amenable to white nationalism or white identity movement. And they think Richard Spencer is a fucking queer. This guy will never, this guy couldn't fucking lead a pencil, let alone a movement.
Well, he can lead a movement of fur fags.
Well, that's the thing with the alt-right was, you know, the only reason the alt-right seemed significant as it was because they went after the media, and the media being, you know, completely insulated as well as run by complete cowardly, jittery leftists who get triggered by everything, gave the alt-right more attention than they merited. The vast majority of the American people have never heard of the alt-right, and the more they find out about them, the more repulsed they are by them. They see them as these pseudo-homosexual, urbanite, degenerate movement of queer guys with gay whoosh haircuts, listening to gay 80s dance music, and spitting on everything they hold dear, like Christianity, for example. You know, they always say Christ cucks, blah, blah, blah. You know, dead Jew on a stick. Christianity is a slave religion. When demographically, you know, devout Christians are probably the only demographic that are amenable to nationalism in large numbers.
No, the white race will be saved if we all become Odinists and paint our dicks blue and run around in the woods.
Well, a good point that I read an article. They made a good point about it. They say like these alt-right people, they're just racist liberals and racist hipsters. They go to these dead ideologies and say, "Ooh, look, this is so fashy and quirky. Let's adopt these aesthetics," and they colonize it, they gentrify it, and once they ruin it, they move on.
Well, you talk about a racist liberal. I mean, Spencer has said time and time again he doesn't care about things like feminism or abortion, and he's a socialist. I mean, last I checked, we called those fucking leftists.
Grinder Greg straight up admitted that he wanted to divorce white nationalism and social conservatism.
Oh, yeah, he said his ideal society is where we're still arguing about social issues like feminism and abortion, but it's just white people arguing it. I'm like, I don't see how that's better.
Or different.
Yeah. It's like, that is literally just a change in the shade.
And the other thing, to go back to Colin Phil's point about how the alt-right are just racist hipsters, you know, they suddenly adopted black slang like tot or tot and based all of a sudden. Like, well, number one, you can't constantly mock the inferiority and stupidity of black people while stealing the slang that they invented. And number two, those terms originated in Chicago, where I'm from. Actual black people there don't say tot anymore. They think it's embarrassing. It's passé.
Well, I literally heard a white
they actually want to live the culture they see in the world. And whether they like it or not, blacks are far more influential on the culture than they are.
Well, I honest to God,
this
is not an exaggeration. I heard it, and I can't remember what it was because I didn't really follow it. I made it like 10 minutes in and was bored with it. But I heard a white nationalist podcast one time that got shared on my Twitter feed that, honest to God, their intro music was DMX, X Gonna Give It To You.
I guess Where the Hood At was too homophobic for him.
it kind of goes to the point you've made, Common Filth, about how homosexuals are incapable of creating culture. They just assume the corpses of dead culture, because that's all the alt-right ever does. They're attracted to stuff that's long dead, like paganism, for example. There's never going to be a pagan revival ever. You can scream about Christ cucks every day, whatever. The majority of Americans, however, are never going to become Odinists. You know, it's a corpse.
They sit there and they whine about, there's all this liberal Christianity and paganism is different. It's like, motherfucker, the majority of pagans in this country are Wiccans.
Yeah, it's like all the pagans now, they're like MySpace Wiccans back in 2005. They just became racially aware because it was something that pissed off their parents. It's like, this Wicca thing isn't working out anymore.
It's basically, a 10th grade girl going through a Wicca phase, only the quote unquote right wing equivalent.
And Forney mentioned that big KK guy. Apparently, he threatened to dox a 14-year-old kid and give his information to registered sex offenders.
So keeping it classy, eh?
Yeah. So this is Richard Spencer's handpicked guy.
A 14-year-old kid that could be one of the fucking leaders of this movement at this point.
Yeah, just don't tell Ghoul, or do tell Ghoul if you're a fucking.
That's the other thing, and I mentioned this to Common Filth, when some of the Ghoul stuff was just starting to break, and this was just when he first got doxxed, and we found out he had lesbian moms, and I was in a private message. I said to him, that guy made my skin crawl the moment I watched him on video, and I said to him, I was like, mark my words. Because at that point it was just alleging he had dated a trainee. I'm like, mark my words, we haven't scratched the surface of this guy's problems.
And lo and behold, you were right. Excellent.
And I still don't think we have, to be honest with
you. I mean, if I recall correctly, CF, you teased that there was something worse about to come out. Maybe.
Oh yeah, it was that big KK stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, I might as well talk about this now because nobody fucking cares. But when the third gym pack came out, the allegation that Ghoul groomed a 17-year-old kid and fucked him at the Chicago pool party, I may have actually known that kid that he groomed in passing. Like a year and a half ago, Arini introduced me to a fan of his that they'd been chatting with on Skype. This kid named Andy from Chicago. I talked to him once or twice, and I actually tried to get him to join our local Rouge V forum group, but he never came out. But anyway, he was like, I don't remember his exact age, but he was like 16, 17, he lived in the Chicago area, and he was racially aware, and he liked Arini and my work, and he also liked the right stuff, and etc. Well, the kid that Ghoul groomed at the Chicago pool party was also named Andy and also in that age range. I don't have any definitive proof because this kid deleted both me and Arini off Skype a long time ago, but it's something I can't entirely discount either.
Well, so I think they said Andy wasn't his name. So,
well, that was the name he gave us. Maybe it wasn't his real name, but that was two of them in the same small circle with the exact same handle. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Maybe Ghoul was making a harem. I don't know.
And through my association with TRS over the years and my interaction with them, I know they're habitually dishonest people who won't ever admit to anything unless they're literally forced. I mean, when the weekend that Mike Enoch was doxxed, they were trying to outright lie to people by having him cooperate with Salon and claim that the TRS readers were neo-Nazis and they were harassing them. Please, help me, please save me from these neo-Nazis who are trying to dox me. That alone should have, among other things, should have just guaranteed a complete blacklisting. The fact that he still has a career is just speaks to the quality of the people who inhabit the alt-right.
Something I use to kind of vet people, and it rarely lets me down. If they are on camera, and I understand why a lot of people aren't on camera. There's obviously anonymity issues and stuff like that, whatever. But if they are someone that is on camera and they're not obviously just nervous and they're comfortable on camera, you just mute their videos and you watch their body language. And that little hindbrain, that part of the back of your head, your spider sense, those eons of instincts that are designed to pick up on body language, it'll see things that you're not even going to see consciously, and there's going to be times where you're just like, I don't know about that guy. I felt a little uneasy with Spencer. I felt really, I really recoiled from Ghoul when I watched him in video. I get that same kind of spider sense warning from Weave. And again, I don't know Weave, but these are all guys where it's like, I wouldn't trust that guy. Never mind his politics. I just don't trust him. And it's not that I take that as gospel, but I certainly don't ignore it. And I think part of the problem is you just have so many fucking heavily autistic people in this fucking movement that they can't read body language for shit. They can't look at these people. They can't look these people in the eye and see anything about them.
Well, I'll really admit my biggest problem is that I will either ignore my gut in some cases, or I'll try and defend people in the hopes that they'll like improve. Like I sort of defended Spencer initially because having met him in person, he's like this guy's kind of an obsequious yuppie, whatever. But he's been thrust into the role of a leader. Maybe he'll grow into it, But it's fucking evident now to everyone that he'll never become a leader, that he'll just fuck up everything, and that he's incredibly, he has no loyalty to even his supporters. I mean, I talked about in the Arini thing how he basically screwed me out of a writing position just to settle a score of his supposed partner. Fuck him and the horse he rode in on.
And suddenly don't punch right didn't apply when they do it. You notice these guys that, don't punch right, but somehow it doesn't apply.
Well, they
don't believe in anything.
Well, they abuse that to basically mean any sort of criticism, I get accused of punching right, even though I never criticized, the buttstuff.jizz for being more right-wing than me. In fact, they're usually more left-wing than me because up until recently, they were overtly pro-homosexual. I mean, they're trying to cover their asses, but I criticize them for their behavior, their conduct, and for their lack of social graces, nothing related to politics, but no, just don't punch right, don't counter signal, don't purity spiral, blah, blah, blah. The mantras of a fucking cult. And now that the smart people are just abandoning the movement, the ones that were still around. I mean, in the past week, we've lost Ryan Landry of Social Matter. We lost Jason Reza Giorgiani of Arctos and Altright.com. Paul Kersey of Stuff Black People Don't Like, closed up shop. 3 smart, sober people. They're all gone now. And we're increasingly going to be dominated even more by the people like the big KK and Ghoul.
Well, I just listened to a debate earlier today. I can't remember what channel it was on, but Vox Day and good old Grinder Greg were having a debate. And I mean, this shows you how fucking insane we're. They're basically debating on whether socialism is part of the right wing. That's the debate we're having there. Which, I mean, it should have just been Vox tore Greg a new asshole, in my opinion, which I'm sure Greg will find use for. But it should have just been Vox just should have sat there and just been like, fucking really? But one of the things Greg kept saying, like, what about Vox obviously comes from a more libertarian perspective, and old school libertarian, back when that meant more than just being about buttholes and weed. But Greg kept trying to throw in Vox's face the common good, the common good, the common good. And I'm like, motherfucker, I'm not gonna be lectured on the common good by Mr. fucking Grinder, all right? I don't want to hear it.
It just speaks to the caliber of white person that these people even still have a following, and they just keep making excuses for these idiots. And it's sad because we're all lumped in with them. Like people, the outside will look at us, look at how we look like, look at our skin color, and think, what a bunch of fuck ups. And they're right.
I used to wonder why black people seem to hate white people so much, but after being involved with the alt-right, I don't wonder anymore. We kind of deserve it. We kind of deserve it.
The white people they deal with most of the time are also shit libs, so that's going to have something to do with it. If the only white people you hung around with were Pajama Boy, you'd probably not like him either.
Right. We're only talking about one side of the equation here. I mean, I tweeted something like the crazy dyed-haired, tattooed, Skrillex haircut white girls who scream about how much white people suck all the time. Their existence is proof of that assertion.
Well, again, and whenever you're talking about, they're like, oh, you're a cock, you love black folk, because again, the only reason half these neo-Nazis turned on Milo is the shade of cock he sucks. But
yeah,
I mean, they sit there and they're like, I don't. At the end of the day, yeah, race matters. It's not all that matters, though. I'm very proud of my racial heritage. I would like white people to pull their heads out of their asses and start doing cool shit again, because we've done a lot of cool shit in the past. But at the end of the day, I'd rather go to a black church and a white bathhouse.
amen.
Exactly. I mean, if the best of the white race is going to be so simple-minded that they can be tricked into worshiping a cartoon frog by a Crowley's prankster on pole, then frankly, they don't deserve to exist.
Yeah, this is a movement that couldn't tell some. They turned a joke into a religion. Like, this is why we can't have nice things, people. It's like, here's this funny running gag, and they insist on taking it seriously.
Yeah, I mentioned this on a rainy stream, but you know how all of a sudden the Black Sun Nazi occultist symbol has suddenly become part of the whole Keck Pepe the Frog religion in the past couple of months? Somebody's outright seeding these Aleister Crowley satanic ideas into Pole, and they're worshiping it, literally thinking they're being traditionalists and fighting the shit libs. I swear to God, in a year's time, they're going to be advocating anal sex as the way to satanic power. Oh wait, no, Keck's power. I'm dead serious. They're good. They're dumb enough to go along with it. They don't see the obvious way they're being pranked right now.
The devil was the original nationalist. I mean, like
heterosexuality is
going to be their argument in 6 months.
Heterosexuality is for Christ cucks. They can pull out that.
We're just joking about this right now, but somebody's going to take it seriously again 6 months, 12 months from now.
I mean,
we're having ironic butt sex.
To me, if I say I'm proud of my racial heritage, it's because I'm proud of. I come from the race that invented the airplane and put a man on the moon, and they want to turn it into the race that wants to explore the boundaries of butt stuff. Like I'm about building skyscrapers and putting a man on Mars, not opening the Hellraiser box.
Well, you just have to wonder if any of us left have the capacity to even do any of those great things anymore. And maybe there's a handful, but guess what? They're medicated by elementary school, and we'll never know what could have been.
Yeah, the handful of bright kids who are bored in class, so they're fidgeting. We're gonna chemically lobotomize them.
So it goes.
Whatever. This is the future.
On and on it goes.
I mean, people made fun of those fidget spinners, but at least somebody was trying to. At least somebody was trying to deal with hyperactive kids without fucking lobotomizing them.
Yeah.
Here, play with this toy; it'll calm you down. But no, again, and I said it last night, I'll say it again. It comes down to y'all motherfuckers need Jesus. 50 years ago, our still largely godly society put a man on the moon with less tech than exists in your damn phone. And
well, yeah, they talk about how great the 50s were, yet
now
don't realize that most of their racial kin. And you know what? That's why we were relatively blessed back then.
And
compared to now.
And now all we can do is explore the boundaries of sexual perversion, to seek out new genders.
Putting those high
110 go up no one's ass,
putting those 110 IQs to work.
That's I think I was talking to Arini. He said white IQs over the last 100, 200, 300 years have actually dropped by 15 points. There's speculation that that's the case. So we are regressing horribly.
Well, I always mention, how since the Civil War, up until, right around Lyndon Johnson time, black people were doing better and better and better in this country with each generation. And then comes the welfare plantation, and then, its dysgenic effects. And, and then a bunch of white nationalists will laugh at that. I'm like, motherfucker, go to a trailer park and realize your kind ain't far behind.
Yeah.
You're walking that same path to hell. They might just be a few steps above you.
Look, there's a reason why Jerry Springer has had the career he's had for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I looked, I used to wonder how, for example, when the Roman Empire fell, how such scientific marvels as the ability to create concrete roads were somehow forgotten. Like, it always puzzled me, but it doesn't puzzle me anymore because we live in a country where magazines marketed at teenagers offer them detailed guides on how to lick their boyfriend's assholes. And what's really funny too is I made comments to that effect on Gab of how society is regressing, and it got picked up by some snarky atheist left wing site where they like to freak out over comments made by Christians and right wingers, and they kept saying, "Oh, we can't, it's not that we can't build roads that are strong as the Romans, we just don't want to. We just don't want to because we don't need roads that'll last longer than a year."
Oh, jeez. Yeah, and
what do you do?
And what was it like? It was just a few months ago, and when I guess it was June. That's Pride Month, right? Because
yeah.
Even if I didn't think homosexuality was inherently wrong, I would still think it was stupid to take pride in it. Like, can you imagine that's how you fucking identify yourself, is the thing you get off to?
And don't you think it's funny that they choose the 1 month out of the year where all the kids are off school?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's a coincidence. But no, I remember the cop cars that this one city had paid to get all the cop cars done in fucking rainbow dildo colors or whatever. And I'm just thinking, like, how much money was fucking wasted there? And I tweeted out, I was like, I bet we could explore the galaxy if we stop wasting so much time and money finding new and exciting ways of celebrating butt sex.
Somebody said something nasty about homosexuals online. Quick, to the Posmobile.
And then, you see that a lot of people have made it a joke, but, why is colon cancer increasing in millennials? And then the other article, millennials are the gayest generation ever. Gee, how about that? And don't. That's the other thing. Everybody's like, oh, well, straight people can have butt sex too. It's like, yeah, but gays, that's all they do. Okay.
Those same straight people doing it are all pro sodomite, pro gay marriage, whatever. How are they any different? They're not.
Not every straight couple does that, and the ones that do don't do it to the same extent. So yes, there's a difference.
And again, they support all the same shit that the gay lobby does.
Yeah, if you're doing that all the time, your asshole's going to fall out. That's just medical science.
But Bill Nye told me.
Yeah, Bill Nye said, next we're going to be denying the fact that, eating too much sugar makes you fat because that's fat phobic or something, No, that's just a lifestyle choice that guy made to eat frosting every morning for breakfast.
Well, they were already trying to normalize pedophilia, so that'll be next on the agenda.
Well, it's already kind of working. I mean, the fact that a culture whose founding document says we need to abolish age of consent laws, the fact that culture is like the hot thing, every corporation turns it into a marketing stunt. 70% of Americans think it's acceptable.
You know what drives me nuts about those kind of arguments? And it's similar to, like, I used to constantly rant about out of control cops and police brutality. And then all the Black Lives Matter shit happened. And I suddenly felt like I couldn't bring that up without looking like I was supporting the animals that are burning down cities. And years ago, I used to say that our age of consent laws need some looking at. That, we shouldn't destroy an 18-year-old boy's life because he got caught with his 17-year-old girlfriend. That we need some more common sense in it. And now I don't like saying that because I sound like I'm fucking saying, yeah, let's have Ghoul butt fuck the 14-year-old boy. Like, I can't. It's so insane that it like shuts down any reasonable discussion about issues. As the Young Turks would say, we're trying to have a reasonable discussion here.
Actually, I wonder if Black Lives Matter was fucking designed just to get people to support a police state. Like, just have them bring things to such a state of such anarchy that people would, demand a federal police state come in to, just to bring order back to the streets.
I kind of wonder that myself because, if I wanted to get people to support a police state, I would have the media focus on all the police brutality cases that turn out to be bullshit.
Yeah, and isn't it funny that the Black Lives Matter thing plays to both sides? The left has always wanted federales in the street, and the right's all like, we need it because they'll kill more black people.
Well, so much of the right, they don't, they'll talk a big game about states' rights and local control, and then if you push their right buttons on it, suddenly that's out the window.
Right.
Like you get a Republican senator is all about states' rights until a state decides to legalize marijuana, and then he's up their ass about it. He doesn't have a principle.
Just give them some way to rationalize this looks like a race war might be starting. I'm all for it now, not realizing the principle behind it.
You just push the button and you'll get them to support it. And again, I mean, I found myself, the one case during all this Black Lives Matter thing, there was that guy in New York that was selling the loose cigarettes and some cop choked him to death and all. I'm sorry, that seems fucking excessive to me. You write the guy a ticket and you tell him to move along, and
yeah, that was bullshit.
And then the mayor's like, "Oh, well, that was terrible." And it's like, "Okay, mayor, fuck you. These are your draconian cigarette laws he was enforcing." So, but yeah, and at the same time, nobody cared. Nothing really probably happened to that cop because there was just all these cases that were bullshit thrown up in the air.
And we're moving into a situation where, I doubt the alt-right will be disabused of this, but they are all like, well, you probably saw the videos like Richard Spencer pleading with the riot cop that Charles was like, we support you guys, and they're still getting pushed into the street by the cops. And if Spencer gets tackled, the cops are not on your side. It's like all these people were talking about
for a while.
These people talking.
Go ahead.
These people talking about when the Civil War comes, we'll stop the left easily because they're a bunch of wusses who can't even hold a gun, fire a gun about the wrist. It's like if there's some sort of civil conflict coming, who do you think the police are going to side with? Answer: it's not going to be you. It's going to be with the left. It's going to be with the people who represent the status quo.
Well, both the left and the right.
It's going to be with the people who write their checks.
Yeah. Both the left and the right seem to have this disconnect where they can't grasp the fact that cops and to some extent the military are part of the government. Like the left, you ever see that meme where it's like the leftist protester who's getting pepper sprayed and they write like he wants more government? Well, he's getting more government right in his face. Like the left is like, the government's awesome, but fuck the police. And then the right seems to have the exact opposite thing where they're like, the government's out of control, but cops are fucking angels. It's like, no, if the government's out of control, the cops are probably going to be out of control too.
Right. And the military, as they're, killing these poor illiterate villagers, further radicalizing the children that somehow survive the attacks. And they think it's a great thing.
Yeah. My poor dad, he's a boomer and he did 20 years in the Navy and all. It took him so long to accept the fact that John McCain was a piece of shit. Because, I mean, and I said to him one time, I'm like, I respect the military, but you could put, you could put a Navy uniform on a pile of dog shit. It doesn't make it a sailor. McCain was always shit.
All right, and I don't know if you heard this, but the military itself is now fighting Trump's transgender ban in the military. So this goes to show you where their bread is buttered.
I know McCain was all, which is funny. McCain fought Obama when he put the trannies in, and now McCain's fighting Trump when he's trying to take him out.
Isn't it weird that all of these guys, whether they're actually professional politicians or whether they're in the peanut gallery, they don't actually believe in anything. They have no consistency whatsoever.
Well, years ago, and I think this was still in the Bush years. This was probably 07, maybe 06. I remember this one general came out and he had reversed his position on Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and he was all about letting the open homosexuals in now. And they were asking him at the Senate hearing, why did you reverse your position? And he goes, because of low recruitment, we are in no position to turn people down. And I thought to myself, all the right wingers were like, oh my God, I can't believe he turned his back on this. And then the left wingers are like, yay, he's on our side now. And I'm like, y'all are bearing the lead, because that was a very troubling thing he just said there.
Well, why would you want to join? Anybody in their right mind, why would they want to join the military if they have no other option? You're fighting for a satanic government, fighting for satanic causes, blowing up, killing people who were otherwise no threat to us. And you're doing it from an air-conditioned room via drones behavior.
Oh, I agree. The vast majority of these wars are just fucking insane. We're going to go in and liberate Syria. Well, we shouldn't be going in on quote unquote humanitarian just reasons anyways. But if we were, we'd have a stronger case to go in fucking Venezuela than Syria. And
isn't it interesting that the only Middle Eastern countries we fuck with are the ones where the Christian pluralities that exist there actually exist in relative tolerance? Because Assad's a Muslim. Assad's a Muslim, but he, the Christian people in Syria say, like, we're left alone. The government isn't any problem to us. Same thing in Iraq. Saddam Hussein was very tolerant of Iraq's Christian minority, so much that he got the endorsement of the Westboro Baptist Church, and they went and preached there while Saddam Hussein was in power.
Well, we keep hearing about all these moderate Muslims to help us fight ISIS, and it sure does seem like we're killing them all.
Yeah.
Saddam Hussein was a moderate Muslim who could help us fight ISIS, and we killed him. Assad is a moderate Muslim that might help us fight ISIS, and we seem to want to kill him.
Well, maybe ISIS is a Western invention like Al-Qaeda before it. I don't know. Maybe. Possibly. I don't know. I know it seems kind of crazy, but maybe.
Our leaders in this country, the vast majority of them, and the vast majority of them in Europe have, like, they've gone so insane. Like, Putin is the good guy now. And it's not that Putin has changed. It's just that everybody else went far worse.
Yep.
I mean, there's plenty of things you could say about Putin, that he's not the nicest guy on the block. But to use a nerd analogy, lawful evil beats chaotic evil.
Amen.
I'd rather hang with Lex Luthor than the Joker. But yeah, it's been a hell of a week getting back to the original topic there. And I mean, I don't even want to talk about politics anymore for the most part. It's like honestly, if you're here mostly for the political stuff, I'm probably going to move away from that in the next few months, because I'll talk about stuff as it comes up if I feel I have something to say on it, if I feel I have a unique take. But for the most part, I'll be talking about theology and slice of life shit and whatever nerd thing caught my attention, because it's
like we seem to have been cursed with a spirit of delusion, like God did, as documented in the Bible. He cast down a spirit of delusion, and it seems like it's increasing. It's spreading. The curse is spreading. So let's focus on the few sane things that we have left, and give thanks to that.
Yeah, who the gods destroy, they first make mad. So, I mean, I'm stepping away from politics as well, just because it's chaotic. It's out of our control. There's very little we can do about it. So we might as well focus on the things that we do have control over. So, and plus, basically, getting involved with politics now means aligning with one or another block that is absolutely repulsive. Like, who can honestly look at, say, the alt-right or the alt-right or any of these other teams and be like, yeah, I want to be on that team. I want to be with the alt-right. I want to be with a bunch of fashy, racist butt fuckers. I want to be on the alt-right, the side of the unprincipled ebook merchants, I can't side with any of these groups. They're all equally embarrassing.
A few months ago, I used to find the alt-right more embarrassing, and I'm like, Milo's practically a heterosexual compared to half the alt-right. I mean, every time I think, okay, I'm just amazed at being outdone by how. Hang on a second, guys. You guys talk. I gotta let this puppy out.
Well, Milo's at least amusing from time to time. I don't think anyone has ever laughed at Richard Spencer. Except at his expense.
That's always been my joke. If we're gonna have an attention-seeking faggot, can we at least have the one that's funny?
But now I was watching Mr. Mediker's video earlier today on the meltdown at Rebel Media, and again, we're seeing the dysfunctions of all these groups finally come to bear. In the case of Rebel Media, it's Ezra Levant basically trying to Jew his former employees out of as much money as possible. Mediker made the allegation, supported by this one other guy, that Lauren Southern didn't actually quit. She was fired because she refused to participate in one of his schemes. Faith Goldie was fired a couple days ago because she appeared on a podcast hosted by the Daily Starmer. And again, I can't defend any of these people. I hate to say it, I can't even defend Mike Cernovich, someone like him who served as a mentor to me when I was younger, and I considered a friend. Acts like a total drama queen online. So we've got two groups of drama queens. It's basically two groups of faggots trying to accuse each other of being more gay. Like, and I'm choosing the option. I'm not a faggot, and I'm walking away. I'm walking away from all this. I'll let you talk, CF.
And the two, we're talking about this slap fight between the two sides and the two sides in their respective meltdowns. What people don't want to acknowledge is that there is a predominant racial common denominator who are also suffering from a spirit of delusion, which is why these two sides are having these meltdowns.
People literally seem to think that voting Trump would just fix everything. Daddy Trump would make it all better.
No, what it is it's our last hurrah. It's like, well, clock's about to strike midnight. Pour another drink. Let's have some fun while we still can. That's it.
Well, all these white nationalists will talk about, white people have this higher IQ. Well, you know what? When you have a godless people, then all that high IQ means is it's more means to rationalize dumb shit. Because the one thing is, man is not so much a rational animal as a rationalizing one. Yep. And a higher IQ makes it easier to justify in your own mind why cutting off your own penis will make you happy.
Yeah, I tried to point people to the existence of what my friend calls gay Nazi Tumblr blogs at the center of the alt-right. And there's countless numbers of these blogs, which is literally nothing but pictures of gay porn and swastikas and links to articles by Richard Spencer and pictures of Richard Spencer and Jack Donovan that they presumably jack off to. And I point out the connections between these groups and Spencer and everyone else, and they're all like, I need more evidence, or this is just a fringe minority. At that point, when you present evidence to people and they repeatedly refuse to acknowledge it, the only conclusion you can only draw one of two conclusions. Number one, they're fucking stupid and their claims of a superior IQ are complete bullshit. Or number two, they just don't want to see reality. They don't want to admit the truth. So why should I get involved? Why should I bother to try and explain such things when my warnings are just going to fall on deaf ears? There's any number of things I could do that are way more important or satisfying for me than trying to than casting pearls before swine.
Gay Nazi Satanist Tumblr blogs. I think Common Filth needs to bring Tumblrisms back.
Nah, dude.
Well, I am, because I got 101 retweets on the thing that I said I'd make a new one if I got it.
There you go. You got your next topic.
No, I already got my next topic. It's already in production.
Well, you got the one after that. Okay, before we move on to some other stuff, talking about some other stuff, I want to get the ads out of the way before we forget, because you certainly can't monetize a video anymore, but I go directly to sponsors. So first sponsor we got this week is Button Naked. Now they're on again, off again sponsor. They do tons of great stuff there. It's buttonnaked.etsy.com or something like that. It's only one N. You'll see the link down below. And lots of shitlording nerd stuff. Like one I just saw he just put out was the Marvel Comics villain Kang. He put him on a button with "We was Kangs." There's one with a classic one I love is one with Donkey Kong where it says ape culture under it. Just lots of shitlordy nerd stuff like that. And there's not just buttons, there's like decals you can put on your car, stuff like that. Great stuff at buttonnaked.com or at buttonnaked.etsy. The link's down below, you'll see it. Check them out, really good stuff. Also this week we got Aaron Clarey's new book. Let me bring up the ad copy I got to read for that. Here we go. Okay, so don't be a dumbass. Retirement is serious business and cannot be put off until the ninth inning of life. Thankfully, retirement planning isn't hard, especially when you start when you're young. And thankfully, Aaron Clarey makes retirement planning easy with his latest essay, Poor Richard's Retirement. Poor Richard's Retirement is every man's retirement instruction manual, young or old, and explains how to retire cheap, fast, and easy. You don't need millions in a 401k or IRA, just fiscal discipline, fragility, and a focus on what's important in life, your fellow man. So don't be a spinster old cat lady paying off her student loans for a master's in women's studies at 58. Buy Poor Richard's Retirement today, and you can retire comfortably tomorrow. Available in paperback, Kindle, and audio format. Link down below. And also down below, you'll see the tip jar, where I, thankfully, have not been thrown off PayPal yet. So if you enjoy the show, you can send me a few shekels. That's greatly appreciated. All right, so moving on.
That was me knocking on my wooden desk.
So, yeah, not yet at least. So how about them gay Nazi Tumblr books? And that doesn't surprise me because I've known for a while there was a ton of Satanism in the underground gay community.
The gay community.
There's an oxymoron right there.
I swear, if I win the lottery, I'm gonna have commissioned a common filth pinball machine. And like every bumper that you hit or a little spring, it's gonna have like a little common filth quote and like if you get a game over, it's just gonna be that like line of common filth going, "We should have listened to God." But no, like you go into like the little dog face like that you use, and then you hear Whitney, Wisconsin going, "I fuck dogs."
Yeah, I like that howling dog sound effect.
Yeah,
so I'm not gonna. People have asked me the source of that. I'm not gonna reveal it because I got it from some video from some dog howling. It was just like a nice, funny video. It's like I don't want to have people like spamming inside jokes in their comment section. I want to leave them alone.
That video where Whitney, Wisconsin is sitting there in the bikini top and she's just rambling on like, "Thanks to all my supporters," and then and then to my haters. I actually like. I'd love to get my normie friends to watch that video. Because at first they're like, "Why am I watching this? It's just some chick in a bikini. What's she rambling on about?" And then comes like, "I fuck dogs," and it's just like, "What?"
Yeah, I sent that video to a friend of mine and subtitled it "Jordan Owens' Dream Woman," and he was like, "Fuck you, man! Up until the last 2 seconds, I thought it was my dream woman."
Oh man, I actually showed a black friends that, and they're like, "That made my soul hurt."
Well, as I often say when I'm talking about how we need to restore the family, I like to use her as an example. I say Whitney, Wisconsin would probably not be fucking dogs if she loved her father, and she sure as hell wouldn't be bragging about it on YouTube.
Yeah, another I don't know the word for woman, but yeah, another Ubermensch. We'll just say that.
The beauty of the white woman must never be allowed to.
Uberfrau.
There we go. Yeah, that's it.
Aryan dog fuckers and weed fields.
Well, what's funny is like for a long time they really liked the Taylor Swift thing, like putting Nazi quotes on pictures of Taylor Swift and attributing it to her. But she had that thing at the Video Music Awards when she's accepting her reward, saying like, "Oh, I think it's great that we live in a world where boys can play princesses and girls can play soldiers." It's like, oh, this is your dream woman, huh?
Well, you don't even have to go that far. I mean, every time that she, people claim that she sings songs about chastity and all this when, in actual life, she's the biggest slut in Hollywood. So you don't even have to go that far to see that she's a complete and total fraud.
Well, I mean, I won't be having any bad mouthing of Miss Swift on this live stream. I don't.
Well, she will.
Well, and
Well,
the
she's
Well,
not around
no,
to hear.
that's the thing though. Like, I said since like 2014 that I like Taylor Swift because I just like the fact that in an age of feminists we had somebody that was unapologetically feminine, and I appreciated that. But the thing is, again, you get these autists, and I don't know Taylor Swift the person. I don't, despite my best attempts to hit on her via Twitter, she has not yet to respond to it. So I don't know her the person, but for the most part, I appreciated Taylor Swift the brand. And most of these autists, they can't fucking tell the difference. They don't they see the brand of a celebrity and think they know that person. That person's their fucking buddy.
Well, and you know what the other thing is that, like, with these pop stars, they have huge followings in the gay community, to use that term again. And the fact that these retards glomp onto a pop star just shows me where their priorities are. Did you see on Twitter how Madonna posted a picture of two black guys like licking each other's tongues and saying like our society has no place for hate, love is love. It's like Madonna just posted a picture of two black dudes tongue kissing.
Well, I mean, she's got to do something to get people's attention at this point. I mean, for fuck's sake, Madonna could crab walk down the fucking street naked at this point, and people would be like, "What's she selling now?"
How old is she? She's really old, isn't she?
Oh yeah, she's not aging well.
If Madonna crab walked down the street naked, people would throw money at her just to get her to put her clothes back on.
Yeah, she's almost 60.
Yeah, it'd be like the story about Sticky's strip club that Jim Goad wrote about in the Gigantic Book of Sex. A strip club full of women who are so ugly, the patrons throw money at them to get dressed.
Oh my gosh.
It's funny too. There was like a time in like the mid 90s where Madonna tried to be like a serious singer, and she doesn't have a bad voice. And she tried to actually grow up in her career. And that lasted like 2 or 3 years, and then she decided that was hard. She didn't want to do that anymore. And she tried to whore it up, but she realized at that point, like, it was constantly diminishing returns because she was past her prime.
Yeah, and she was in a bunch of movies,
no one wants a 45-year-old whore.
Yeah, she was in a bunch of movies too, but the problem is that Hollywood is notoriously hostile towards aging women. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Last year, if I recall correctly, she was the one who was offering blowjobs to people who didn't vote for Trump, if I recall correctly.
Well, and let's consider all the porn stars, the current ones, who are offering the same thing if they did vote for Trump.
Well, I mean,
like case of Madonna, she's making that offer long after anyone would want to take her up on it.
It's like, sweetie, unless we can get the DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour, I'm gonna have to pass.
I mean, unless you got removable dentures. I mean, well, actually, that won't even work.
I'm gonna lose sleep tonight.
Oh, come on, Common Filth. We all know the things you've seen.
I don't know. I've forgotten most of the things I've seen. I read the news. I kind of red-pilled a few friends too, showed them like Tumblrisms because it was genuinely funny. So it's a good entry point for people, and it's like, I think I sent that ABDL one around to a bunch of people too. I was like, I'm proud of that one because of the audio editing at the end. It like seamlessly transitions into that Screwdriver song at the end, and it pissed off a lot of people. And it's funny. It's like whenever I like make fun of white people or whatever, and what we've become, the default response is always, well, why don't you move to someplace in Africa? So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so the cost of doing business with white people now is accepting this bullshit. That's why you jump to, go move to Africa. It's like, no, how about you shape up, you idiot?
Well, I always think that the biggest, what really gets these people to just go insane about it is what I find telling you know, you'll watch the video on Puppy Play, and these people will talk about how they live as a dog. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something they do for kinky fun in the bedroom and then they go about their lives. They live as it. It's not even a sexual thing anymore. It's a way of life at this point. I don't even think it's fair to call that a fetish at that point. A fetish is, well, first of all, a fetish is like you like to be spanked or you like to suck toes. It's not you like to shit your pants. Okay, I think we can draw a line there. But a fetish is something in the bedroom. This is a mental illness.
That's the problem, though, is that, you know, what you bring into the bedroom is going to be your entire being, because what are you expending your life force on?
Yeah, well, if you view sex as the end all be all, then whatever it is that you nut to is going to become your god. Like, that's what always struck me about it. Like these role-playing people, like, it's not like, oh, we played teacher-student in the bedroom and then we went back, to being a husband and wife or whatever. No, it's like, this is how we live all the time.
Well, that's the other thing. This thing used to be confined to use that phrase again, the gay community. Back 10 years ago, I was arguing, when I was a neocon, I was like arguing, you don't see straight people walking around the street in straight pride parades. You don't see a man leading his wife around on a chain in public. Well, I can't even say that anymore because people are doing this. Straight people are doing this stupid shit now.
But again, there were basically always straight people who were into kinky shit, and since gays are such a small part of the population, a considerably larger in sheer number of straight people into kinky shit. But because straight people generally don't view sex as the end all be all of their fucking existence, that wouldn't come to, if a straight couple were into kinky shit, that would just be weird shit that was in the bedroom and no one else would fucking know about it. They wouldn't walk down the street in fucking fetish gear.
And look, again,
it wasn't the end all be all of their fucking life. They didn't make it the center of their being.
Well, but adding to that, the fact that they're doing this shit, I think, and they're like, nobody's taking a step back and saying, like, wait a minute, we're adding shame upon shame. Let's stop doing this. It engenders sympathy towards the gay rights causes, because like, oh well, we do that too. They do it. We're kindred spirits, so let's support them. All these people that do this weird shit and admit to it, whether they do or don't, they all support gay rights. Because what they're doing in the privacy of their home is engendering that sympathy.
I think all this weird shit is like moving people towards being gay. I mean, there was the medical evidence put out by anti-porn researchers pointing out how you got some young kids who are nominally heterosexual, some young boys. They watch so much porn they start watching gay porn, even though they're not gay, because they it's like chasing a high. They need harder and harder material in order to get off. In order to it's like being addicted to heroin or any other drug.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that interview with, I think it was Ted Bundy. He said, like even himself, he's talking about all these people in jail for violent crimes, including himself. He said nearly every time you encounter one of these people, you ask them like how they got started. It started with pornography addiction, and then it spiraled out of control into they kill people to get off.
Yeah, I mean, that's the aesthetic thing, too. Ted Bundy, he committed his murders in the 70s when pornography was very difficult, comparatively difficult to get. Now you've got fucking 9-year-olds who are watching, double fisting donkey sex videos on their iPhones because their parents are giving them the electronic pacifier and not giving a shit.
Oh, yeah, we're going to have a ton of Ted Bundys 10, 20 years from now.
Well, that's the other thing. Porn now has gotten to this point where, and I mean, a few years ago when I watched it considerably more heavily than I do, I try not to watch it at all anymore. But in just the last 10 years, it got to this point where it became like, I don't know how else to put it, like mean. Like it became almost mean-spirited about it. Like it's not like people fucking anymore. It's like ghetto gaggers and cuckoldry and just like hateful shit.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that on a podcast about 3 years ago, you, me,
Yeah.
and William Rome. And actually, one trend that's happening now is the trend of like step sex, like stepdaughter and stepfather have sex, or step siblings have sex, or stuff like that. What's next? They're going to move out to outright incest? Oh, you bet they will if they can get away with it.
Part of that, I wonder if it's just almost a market force of there being so much free porn that in order to get somebody to subscribe to your site, you have to be, well, let's just say niche.
Well, it wouldn't be viable if that niche was a niche, but again, it can't be too niche if they can offer subscriptions to their shit.
Again, though, it all comes down to, in my opinion, it all comes down to restoring the family. And I mean, you can argue about how exactly to do that, but you know, you want to keep degeneracy at bay. You gotta restore the faith and the family. I mean, you know, a bunch of people who have no connection to their larger family and have no God are going to turn into sex addicts by and large. Because why wouldn't they? You know,
well, it has to start from within. It's like your family is something in and of itself to preserve, but this has been a long time coming. The divorce rates have been steadily increasing, and that's because people don't find any value in loyalty or keeping together what's theirs.
Oh yeah, I often talk about like there's a few common sense things you could do from a public policy standpoint. You could try and phase out the welfare state to get rid of financial incentives to not be in a family. You could try and reform the family court laws, and that would really, really help. But it's almost like, when a doctor is treating you, he can only do so much, and at a certain point, the body has to heal itself.
Yeah.
And you could do these things that would really, really give us a chance as a people to heal ourselves. But at a certain point, we as a people have to repent.
Right. You could talk about all these external things you're talking about, these policies that could be enacted. They would help, but the biggest problem is what's happening internally, what's happening in the hearts, minds, and souls of people, where they just don't give a fuck about their own families anymore. And it's been happening for a long time, longer than any of us have been alive, which is why this antipathy towards the family has grown, because people's experience with it. Childhood is very important. Your development is highly important, and people's experiences with that, it creates this antipathy towards the family because their family was shit. Yeah.
And, at a certain point, it comes down to, we as individuals, families are made up of individuals. And, if the individuals in that family are all shit, why would you have loyalty to the family?
Yeah.
If your parents were fucking assholes, why would you then as an adult be concerned about bringing shame to your family name?
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, I used to say this a lot. You can't be loyal to that which is not loyal to you. It's a two-way thing. Loyalty needs to be a reciprocal thing, or else it's just suicidal.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the other thing about gay rights, and this is something where I used to buy into it more, and I never really thought being gay was equal to being heterosexual. I was never that far gone. Even in my God-hating agnostic days, I thought I at best pitied them. But gay people are the culture at large up until a few years ago tried to paint this picture of gay people as just this people that wish to be left alone. And my primary political motivation has almost always been get off my lawn. So I'm always going to be able to respect that. If you're like, hey, I just want to be left alone, I'd be like, oh, okay, I can respect that. But the problem is that's not what the fuck they want. And I think a lot of people need white pilled on the fact that are not red pilled or woke or whatever the fuck you want to, whatever analogy you want to use. They need woken up to the fact that that's not what they want. They don't want that because they're sick inside. They're going to constantly want you to throw them a parade and bake them a dildo cake because they need something to silence that voice in the back of their head that's telling them not to do this.
here's the thing about lies, because fundamentally what their lifestyle is, their death style, really, it's a lie. They're using their life force on a lie. And the thing about a lie, it only works if everybody believes in it, which is why they demand that everybody believe in it.
And that's the point. You know, they'll sell you this bullshit about we just want tolerance. Well, no, tolerance is I leave you the fuck alone. No, what you clearly want is acceptance. And if you were so sure that this is perfectly healthy and fine, you wouldn't need acceptance. I don't need acceptance of my life from complete fucking strangers.
No, because you're not living a lie.
Yeah, I'm a nerd and I like playing video games and shit like that. I don't need complete fucking strangers to tell me that's okay because I don't feel bad about it. There's not this nagging voice in the back of my head telling me it's wrong.
And it went from, oh, we just want tolerance. Okay, not good enough. We want acceptance. No, it still isn't good enough. They want outright celebration.
Yeah, never be good enough. There's never enough parades.
They want worship.
Yeah, there are never enough parades you can throw them to silence the voice in the back of their head.
They want outright worship.
And again, I say that's something people need to be woken up to. Well, that's something people are, at least some people that with eyes to see are getting woken up to. The fact that, you know, I mean, when gay marriage got passed in the Supreme Court, I didn't care initially. I was like, whatever, I don't care. Can we audit the Fed? You know, it's whatever. They get a piece of paper from the government. Why should I care? Well, I guess the reason I ended up having to care is I was going to have to bake them a dildo cake or they were going to throw me in jail.
Right, or they'll deplatform you. They'll shut down any means of monetization you have. All of it. If
it was just about, you know, we want to live our lives in peace, then that should have been the end of the quote unquote gay rights movement. That should have been the last we fucking heard of it ever. And then it moved on to, no, you have to celebrate the fact that this weirdo wants to cut off his dick, and oh yeah, we're going to push pedophilia too next.
And again, their founding document, the original Gay Rights Charter, calls for the abolition of age of consent laws. So we know where it's headed. And
the tranny thing, that's the one that gets me the most. And it's kind of an emotional thing, but it's like, you know, you're going to parade out this fucking freak with a 5 o'clock shadow and you're going to demand I call it she. And at that point, I mean, fuck just wanting to be left alone. At that point, you were demanding I say there's 4 lights. You know, you were demanding I just say what is just obviously right in front of my face, not true.
And even when they get that and they're getting it, they're not going to stop.
Yeah. I mean, like that Riley Dennis dude on YouTube, that guy's got an Adam's apple you could cut a roast with, and I'm supposed to call him she.
It's gaslighting. It's
not even a convincing illusion, and I have to accept it.
It's gaslighting. It's a way of psychologically abusing us and to forcing us to deny what is plainly obvious. You know, like you said, you know, there are 4 lights, you know. We can tell that dude you're talking about is not a fucking it's not a fucking chick. These people are not fucking chicks. There's no 31 flavors of gender, and there's no pansexuality, all this. But the fact that we have to accept it is like their little totalitarian triumph, you know.
Yeah, I don't even like the term sex change operation because that implies that this person is actually changing their sex.
Well, and they don't call it that anymore.
That technology doesn't fucking exist. That technology doesn't exist in Star Trek. You know, it's not that's impossible. What you can do is you can chemically and surgically mutilate somebody until they maybe sort of resemble the opposite sex if you squint your eyes.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. They don't call it sex change anymore. They call it gender reassignment.
Well, the gender. Gender
because they say like, oh, sex and gender are different. It's their way of getting around the chromosome thing.
It's their way of getting around the fact that what they were originally calling it is fucking impossible. Okay, it's not something that anyone has. You know, comic book fucking super science can't do that shit. All right, it doesn't work. Well, it's gender reassignment. No. I'm willing to grant you that gender dysphoria is an actual real mental condition. But, you know, I fail to see how the solution to that is we're going to chemically and surgically mutilate your body to get in line with a delusion.
Yeah, don't you think it's curious that their prescription, their cure for a mental illness is cutting your junk off?
I mean, it's clear you have a mental problem. You have like there are people who have a mental condition where they don't mentally recognize their one arm as part of their body. It feels like this foreign attachment to them. And I have no doubt that's a real thing that they suffer from. But the solution there is not to cut off their fucking arm. Their solution there is to get their mind right so that it accepts that the arm's part of their body, so it accepts reality. And and a lot of these transgender, they won't argue that point. Yeah, well, you shouldn't cut off their arm. Well, then why should you cut off your dick?
Well, because once you assign some weird thing to your junk, all of a sudden everybody takes it very seriously. That's the only source of meaning for anybody. Like, oh, you're crazy, yeah, okay, whatever. You're crazy who assigns the craziness to whatever your junk is doing. Oh wow, let's take it seriously now. That's what people think, and you know what? Psychology, it won't work because their entire field is based off of democratic consensus and not scientific reality. The only reason why homosexuality is no longer in their book of mental illnesses is because they had a vote on it.
Yeah, I love to ask that to people. I'm like, you know, up until, what was it, in the 70s, they considered homosexuality a mental illness. What was the new scientific evidence that made them change their mind?
None.
You know, yeah, they'll be like, well, we just knew better. What? You just knew better. You got your crystal ball told you so. Is that how science works now?
That's science, bro. Bill Nye told me. Science is the belief in what's possible, not like a boring set of rules that you have to follow in order to arrive at truth. No, it's a belief.
Yeah, it's not like it's this, you know, dry, boring, you know, method of measuring objective reality. No, it's was it Vox Day calls it scientism, where it's they make a religion of thinking Star Trek is real.
Well, the other thing too is, like, I'm not sure if you went over this. Sorry, I was away from the mic for a bit, but I think a lot of it is just like these kids are trying to find some way to make themselves feel special, because otherwise their lives are pretty sucky. I think this explains why, for example, Colin Phillips, you pointed out how homosexuality and all this stuff has spread to the heartland of America. Well, a lot of these kids are facing, you know, student loan debts, crappy jobs, underemployment. They've got no real future. So they respond by declaring themselves a pansexual, transsexual, whatever, because all of a sudden, wow, they're suddenly special. They suddenly are not like all these other dumb hick losers in their town of bumfuck Minnesota. They're unique. They have a reason to keep living.
Right. And you know what? This is something that I've noticed. Because, you know, people know I'm in California. I'm not in particularly a politically hotbed kind of thing, however you want to say that. But people know this is a blue state. And you know what? And you don't see a whole lot of overcompensation for that. It's like people are like, yeah, it's a fact of life. So it's ingrained in the fabric of society, which is in some ways worse because you can't point to the freak show and say, hey, look at it. But these kids, particularly in the blue parts of the red state, they overcompensate like crazy, which makes these Hickvilles seem a hell of a lot worse than any place in California. Because they're like, oh, I know the culture's against me. I better really double down on this. This is something I've noticed. It was 2 years ago. I was in Idaho. Noticed the same thing.
Well, you know, you used to be able to fucking rebel as a teenager by you know, sneaking around with your high school sweetheart. Now we've degenerated to the point where, you know, your teenage rebellion has to be, you know, I'm a pansexual pony ethnic otherkin or whatever.
Well, yeah, you can do that by sneaking off with your girlfriend. You could do it by sneaking off with your girlfriend, playing in a punk band, playing in a metal band. But the problem is those people that rebelled by doing that, they're parents now, and they're cool with it.
I just also want to say that like pansexualism isn't real. Like, it's not a thing. Okay, like I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not even talking about the morality of it for a second. I'm saying it's not a fucking thing. Okay, you're either heterosexual or homosexual or some manner of bisexual. Those are the only things that are even fucking options. All right, either like vagina or you like dick or you like both. But there's no fucking third option. Pansexualism is bullshit.
Are your only options only John or Joyce? Hard or moist? Bill Nye, bro.
It's just like you're so having a boyfriend and a girlfriend isn't good enough for you at that point. I gotta make up a third fucking thing I could bang.
Yeah, you know what the third thing is? Children. That's what it's gonna be. That's what it's gonna be.
Well, you see, I identify as a 7-year-old, so that totally makes this relationship with this 9-year-old not weird.
Yeah, in 10 years, we'll be treated to arguments about how Democrats are the real pedophobes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, I mean, I like to make the joke of identifying as a Bulbasaur, but I in about a year's time, I'm not going to be able to make that joke anymore. It's going to be real.
Because then you're going to get messages in your inbox saying like, "Hey, I heard you like to pretend to be Bulbasaurs. Well, I too am a Bulbasexual, and you want to meet up?"
Yeah, I'm gonna get some really weird shit in my inbox.
Oh, and people like to say, "Oh, third gender." Yeah, things do come in threes. It's called man, woman, and child.
Third gender.
Yeah, that's what the third thing is. That's what results from man and woman, the child.
Ugh. Just again,
the world's gone mad.
Again, it just stems from you've turned sexuality into the reason for your existence. So of course you're going to want we like I said, we used to want to explore the solar system. Now we want to explore the boundaries of perversion.
Well, and the thing is that we find that more interesting now for some reason. We're not interested in the stars and the future. Because, I think at some level, these people instinctually know that there is no future. And it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy because they're the reason why there is no future.
Anti-Dem wrote a good article after I was talking about the death of the mall and how that made me sad because it was a part of my childhood, but it was also, the mall was sort of an evolution of the old town square. We took the town square and we put it indoors and, climate controlled it. And he was talking about the mall kind of back in the 80s and 90s. It almost sort of represented the future. It was a sleek and almost intimidating architecture. And, it was big and beautiful and well kept and prosperous and clean. Again, it was the old town square and we put a roof over it.
And then
that's gone now.
And then you had the arcade where you felt like if you're stepping into like a dimly lit arcade, you're like, wow, I feel like I'm in the future. I remember that part of the article too.
Yeah, you could have certain malls you walked around, you felt like you were walking around the central court of a space station or something. It was just beautiful. And now the mall is dying in part because nobody wants to go out and do anything. Nobody wants they just want their entertainment streamed directly to them and they'll get their fucking food ordered to them and they'll just never have to leave the house. Nobody wants to go out and do anything anymore.
It's a misunderstanding of what the experience is about. Sure, like let's use the example of the arcades. Sure, you have video games, you have a lot of great games that you can play, but people mistake like, oh, that's why you went. No, you went for the experience. You went for the socialization. You went to go hang out with your friends, have a shared experience. And it just so happened that shared experience was video games. Now we're like, oh, it was about the games. Well, no, that was just the excuse.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of classic arcade games, like, the old X-Men arcade game, I think, is on there. I don't know, I think the Simpsons arcade game is on there. And you can play it on your TV. And that's really cool. But at the end of the day, I'd rather, if I have the time, there's this one retro game store that has a bunch of free-to-play arcade machines there. I'd rather go there and play it.
Yeah.
Because then I can just talk to my fellow man and, laugh and joke as we're playing this game.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen malls in my the city where I grew up being replaced with strip malls because people just want to go up and buy their shit and go. Whereas the best malls I've ever seen in my life, and it's telling, it's a place where that civic life still exists. It's in the Philippines. The nicest malls I've ever seen, because Filipinos still go to the malls to hang out and socialize and do all the other stuff like that. They still serve like the town squares type role there, and the malls there are just getting more and more elaborate. Like there's one mall in Manila called the Mall of Asia, which I think at one point was the 10th largest mall in the world. It's got an indoor skating rink. Mind you, this is in a country where the average temperature is like 100 degrees year round. There's another mall there called the Greenbelt, which has this elaborate central aquarium full of all this exotic fishes, and that's like the high-end mall where Dolce & Gabbana and all the good fashions are. And I like going to these places to just sit around and take in the atmosphere. They're a great place to take a girl. They're a great place to hang out with your friends. The malls here in Hungary are also pretty good. In fact, walking around the central party district of Budapest. Budapest has a friggin' arcade, not a barcade, not one of those stupid hipster, contraptions. An actual, honest-to-God arcade in the center of town where you can go in and plunk down some forints and play some Street Fighter.
We have a few retro arcades in my area that have popped up where it's like all the machines are free to play and they charge you by the hour to be in there. It's like $8 an hour, and I mean those are great. I often thought, they would make great places to like host a party or something if you were, But there's two areas I'd like to go to in this country before they end up, while they still exist, I guess, that are just, I'd like to go see the Mall of America at one point, the last great mall in this country. And I'd like to, out in...
Aaron Clary is slapping his face right now.
Out in Colorado, there's a place called Mile High Comic Book Store, which is the world's largest comic book store. And I'd like to go there. Now, I could order any comic book I want off Mile High's site. But that's not the point. The point is I'd like to go into this giant-ass fucking comic book store and just browse through shit. Now, I don't know if I'll ever get to either one because they're kind of out of my way and there's not a lot around them. It's hard to justify flying to Colorado to go to a comic book store. But if I'm ever in Colorado, I want to stop by there because it's cool to go into a big store. And like it's something to do. And that's the thing. Aaron Clary constantly busts my balls about, loving the mall. And I love Aaron. He's a friend of mine. He's a sponsor and all. But Aaron is just too much of an economist. And he just looks at just the numbers. And, yes, Aaron, anything I could go buy at the mall, I can order on fucking line and they'll bring it to my house. But that's not the point. The point is it's somewhere to go. It's something to do.
Is that most people they miss the point. They think like, oh, we go there because the stuff is there, because that's what they walk out with. That's like the souvenir from their trip. So they I don't know if they trick themselves what it is, but it's a weird psychological thing where they miss the point of these things, which is to have this shared experience. The fact that you're going to buy some shit or play some video games or watch a movie is tertiary to the main point.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff's fine. I like having nice stuff. But the other part of the appeal, even within just the thing itself, is you go to a store and you're likely to find something you didn't even know existed. You go to a store and you didn't know what you wanted. You go to a bookstore and you're like, I just want a book. And you stroll and you look through the shelves of books and you find a book you didn't know existed. That's something cool about it right there.
The ability to just go around and browse and check out stuff.
Again, Amazon's very useful if you know exactly what you're looking for. But I don't always know exactly what I'm looking for if I want to watch a movie or read a book. I've discovered a lot of great books just by wandering through bookstores. Like, I discovered the Max Brooks Zombie Survival Guide one time wandering through a bookstore. And because of that, I ended up reading World War Z, which is one of the best novels of the past several decades. I wouldn't have known about that from Amazon because I would have just seen, another zombie book or whatever popped up on my mentions.
All right. It would just been a recommendation at most. You couldn't actually
Yeah.
I mean, they do have the thing where you can like look at it, but it's still not the same thing because they only give you a page or two, whatever it is.
And again, it's the. I was having dinner with a young lady recently, and we were talking about that. Where it's like there's not much to do. Like even just planning a date. Where do you go?
Yeah.
It almost always devolves into going out to dinner. I was actually looking to see if there was maybe a Dave and Buster's near us because, at least that has an arcade in it. I've never been to a Dave and Buster's, but I think the idea of it is cool. Hey, remember when you liked Chuck E. Cheese as a kid? Well, here's that as an adult. That seems like a cool idea. I don't know if it turns out it's actually shit. I've never been to one. But
there's one place that I saw is like a bowling alley arcade thing, and it's actually pretty new. The thing about new arcade games, like a lot of them are, they're the redemption ticket type things, and that's fine. But the problem is they're usually based off of a mobile game, and it's a crappier version than what you could get for free.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, like I would love to find a restaurant that was sort of not a chain, like a mom and pop kind of Dave and Buster's, where it's got a lot of old style arcade machines with the restaurant.
I would like to see a lot more skee ball. I love skee ball.
Oh, I love skee ball. Skee ball is so awesome. Actually, I was thinking here, since I'm still living that neat lifestyle, still haven't found a job. I was thinking I might wander down to Ocean City, see if the boardwalk's still worth going to down in Maryland.
I was there last year. It was okay, I guess. I was mainly there just because after 5 days of anarchy at the RNC and 5 days of anarchy at the DNC, I was like, "Fuck, I'm going to the beach." I didn't really do much there. I just sort of wander around the boardwalk and eat saltwater taffy and watch the sunset. It was pretty pleasant, I'd say.
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing. Nobody wants to do anything anymore, and that's why so many of these places are dying. I mean, part of the reason the movie theaters are in such rough shape, I mean, part of the reason is 90% of what Hollywood puts out right now is unwatchable.
Yeah.
If it weren't for comic book movies, I wouldn't have been to the movies in possibly years. But also, like, nobody wants to do anything. And then, you add to it that the movies are so terrible. I mean, and then because so few people go, the prices get jumped up even further. And then it reaches a point where it's like, I can't justify spending all this money to go see this movie when I can wait 3 months and go to Target and buy it for $20.
Yeah, I mean, most with my friends, at least back in Chicago, most of our social functions are around going to bars, to chat and whatnot, which is all well and good, but that's pretty much it. Here in Budapest, life is a bit more lively. You got all the the ethnic festivals and whatnot going on. So, but still.
Hell, even the music festivals aren't even really about the music anymore. It's like a brand building thing and a place to do drugs. It's like, oh look, I'm at Coachella. Got to post this to Instagram. Also, cocaine.
Oh yeah. Budapest just wrapped up the Siget Festival, which is I guess the Coachella of Europe or the Coachella of Eastern Europe. Just leads to a massive increase in the number of disgusting high hippies wandering the streets, as well as obnoxious drug dealers who pounce on anyone who speaks English out in public. Music festivals, not even once.
Well, I mean, I go to all these nerd shows and all, and it's amazing. Like, everyone wants to go to Comic-Con out in San Diego, and for years now, I've completely lost interest in it because there's almost I've often wondered, as big as that is, if there's a single booth left that sells comic books.
Yeah,
there was a joke on the Cleveland show where there was like premiered at Comic-Con was a trailer for a David Schwimmer sitcom about him being a lifeguard. Like, that's how far removed from the original thing it became. And that's not far off.
A Hollywood hype event. It's all just mainstream entertainment. That's where it gets announced.
I've gone to a few cons these last few months. There was one just in my area, and Angry Video Game Nerd was there. Pat the NES Punk was there, and it was a nice little con. And again, I I bought a couple of things, but I was trying to watch my money, so I didn't buy much. But nothing I bought there couldn't have been ordered online. But the point is, it was somewhere to go, it was something to do. You know, I had a video game nerd sign one of my NES games.
Well, just getting people to go out to something like a music show is kind of a pain, you know? I mean, like I said, music festivals not even once. The last time I went to one was Pitchfork in Chicago 3 years ago. And basically, you know, I couldn't even really enjoy it that much because everyone was so, despite the security checks, everyone was able to somehow get in their bong and their pile of pot. And the pot fumes were so high, I cannot stand the smell of pot. It makes me fucking nauseous. Just pot fumes coming off of Union Park every fucking, all the fucking time, making me continuously sick. Plus, you know, the heat and the sunblock and whatnot. By the end of the second day, when I was getting ready to go out during the last show, Neutral Milk Hotel, I had to lie down in the grass just because my joints were so fucked.
Fun.
But yeah, it's like Common Phil said, you know, people just think, oh, and again, you know, well, why go to the mall? You can just order stuff online. But it's not really about that.
Yeah.
You know.
I used to go to a lot of like local music shows, and even then it's like the most you get is like 200 people that show up at a pizza place, and they're fun, but it's like you kind of look back at it, like most of the shows I went to, maybe 50 people were there. And they're a lot of fun, and there's good music, and you're supporting these touring bands, but it's like, again, then that was like, you know, 5-6 years ago that I would do this. And back then it wasn't like the hot ticket.
The last show I went to, you know, in the indie circuit, I saw Swans about a year ago. What took the fun out of the shows is like everyone gets there and they spend all time on their fucking iPhones, either hunched over looking at their iPhones, taking pictures with the iPhones, taking selfies with the iPhones, you know, just, you know, talking to their friends on the iPhones. Like, why did you even come out to a live show if you're just going to hover over your invisible computer? You could do that at home.
Because so they could say that they were there and post about it, so everybody could be impressed that they were there, even though they didn't really experience it.
You know, and in some ways I kind of regret it, but I've never been a guy that takes a lot of pictures. And part of it is just I've always had this philosophy where I'm like, because I've just been around friends that did it too much, and I'm just like stop looking at life through a camera and just look at life. And now, to some extent, I went the opposite extreme, and there's times where I wish I had more pictures. But, you know, I've just never been one. And that's the same thing with the camera phone now. Everybody's got to, you know, they're not interested in doing something. They're interested in taking a picture of the fact that they did something so they could put it on Facebook.
Well, you know, I understand the value of having those pictures, but again, if you're taking hundreds a day, it stops being special. Those little quiet moments that you wish you documented, how is it any different than the 500 other ones you took this week?
Yeah, and again,
we're drowning in it.
There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, with going on social media and saying to your friends, like, hey, look at this cool thing I did. But like you said, that's a tertiary thing. That's a secondary thing. The first thing should have been, I did this cool thing. Like, that should have been what you're more excited about.
Right, and it would have more of an impact if you didn't spend all your time taking pictures of that cool thing. Take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and then be done with it. Actually experience it so that when you have that memento, you actually have some, I guess, food for memory. So you can just remember it for me. It ceases having any sort of emotional impact.
I saw this meme, and it was like this snooty chick at like this table at a restaurant, and there was all this fancy food that had been ordered, and she's on her phone. And then like the caption below, it says, I'm about to excuse myself to the restroom and leave her with the bill. Let whoever she's texting pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to shows, I strictly set a rule of myself of taking no pictures, just because when you're taking pictures in a dimly lit, you know, auditorium, or whatever, it's going to look like shit anyway, and it takes you out of the experience. The only time I took a picture that I can recall in recent memory is I went to see Black Sabbath last year, and there was a guy on the outer edge of the arena who was like holding up a sign that says Black Sabbath matters. Then people were like yelling at him. People were yelling at him. I was like, all Sabbaths matter, you know?
Well, it was a few years ago when I first, and it was when I actually It was the second time I met you, Forney, but I also met Craig Langley out there. But when I was out at Syracuse for that one retro game con, I had Angry Video Game Nerd sign a game, and I had Pat the NES Punk sign that big NES guide he did. And like I had buddies that were all like, and like the one guy that was there, gaming historian. I didn't really have anything from the sign, but I just went up to his booth. I was like, "Hey man, shook his hand, really enjoy your videos and all." And a buddy of mine was like, "Well, why didn't you get a picture taken with him?" And I was like, "That didn't even occur to me." I mean, it might have been nice, but I primarily I wanted to go up and shake his hand and say, "I appreciate your content. Keep up the good work." I wasn't. It didn't occur to me I have to prove to people I've been around this guy.
I took a picture with Colin Kaepernick once. That's floating around somewhere out there.
Uh-oh, people are going to be looking for that. Gotta dock Common Filth. Well, the one thing that was, I don't remember, but you were like feuding with Blair White or something on Twitter about something, and I just put on there, it was like plot twist, Common Filth secretly is Blair White and also Mexican. It's just an elaborate troll.
Yeah, that's one of the funniest things to me. Like, oh, you made a good point. Well, you're a Mexican. Well, no, I'm not. But I think it's funny, so I make jokes about it.
Well, I know you got blocked by
like,
Blair White, and I had some tranny on this channel one time, just because the person seemed very polite, and I wanted to ask questions that I don't normally get to ask of them. And that person also had some sort of feud with Blair White. So the opening joke in there was, I'm like, both this person and Common Filth had been blocked by Blair White, though I suspect for very different reasons.
It's some tranny on tranny violence there.
Dude, somebody, the really batshit tranny that runs the Assigned Male comic?
Yeah.
Sophie, whatever. Again, that's one of the ones where it's like, you're not even passable. Like you didn't even put effort into this. But somebody photoshopped, because this person did Sophie did this picture of him in the bikini top that's just absolutely fucking horrifying. And somebody photoshopped like it looking like it was on the cover of a DVD porno or something, like Hot Tranny Action 9 or something. And there was like some meme under it where it was like, for some reason, this one's not a big seller.
Oh, goodness.
Assigned Male. That's, man. I want to say that it's so far out there that it feels like it's actually making fun of trannies, but I know better.
The Vice Twitter just posted this. The men who transform into living latex female dolls.
That sounds like something a serial killer forcibly does to somebody in a bad movie.
Here, I'm going to.
And it's something people are willingly doing to themselves.
Yeah, it's like that.
Look at the.
It's like that.
Look at the picture. It does look like a serial killer.
It looks like it sounds like the creepypasta going around about the guy in Eastern Europe who kidnaps girls from orphanages and turns them into living sex dolls.
It's like
the real people are doing it to themselves.
It's like that picture's like the world's worst Batman villain. Dr. Gender, you won't defeat me this time, Cape Crusader. Just runs around
there's like
with
a
giant
17
tits and a strap on.
This men who transform into living latex female sex dolls article that I just click on. It's actually a 17-minute documentary. So there's enough of these people out there to make a 17-minute documentary about.
I don't know. I think I could spend 17 minutes just over and over and over again asking the person, the fuck are you doing with yourself?
I could have sworn there was a picture of Adolf Hitler in the background. I was like, oh, it's a member of the alt-right, but apparently not. It's one of Dickie Spencer's lieutenants.
Plot twist, it is Richard Spencer. Oh man. That's that 115 IQ at work. When you take God out of the equation, that high IQ just means you can eat yourself faster.
I'm my own God, bitch.
Hundreds of thousands of years of human progress, and it all culminates in this: a man turning himself into a living Barbie doll.
I don't think about how unlucky we are, or lucky. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of both that we get to see this crazed spectacle that's unprecedented in the scope of human history.
Somebody should take like the actual video footage of this guy who turned himself into a doll and impose over it the voice of Cartman from that one early South Park where he's like, "Follow your dreams, you can reach your goals."
Or what wasn't he like? It's my body. I do what I want.
It's my body, whatever.
Then you have to splice in Whitney, Wisconsin going, "It doesn't affect you."
What I do doesn't affect you. Doesn't hurt you.
And where
she does it, it's legal.
I wonder if she had advertiser-friendly content.
Probably. I don't know. It's like 5-10 years from now. It's like the love of your life deserves the best by Purina. Gold standard.
Well, that's the other thing. All this YouTube talk about advertiser-friendly content, and they're ignoring all that like creepy Spider-Man Elsa videos that are like grooming kids for pedophilia.
Well, and not only that, you have like guys like Tyler Oakley and I think Shane Dawson and all these other reprobates who are some of YouTube's most popular personalities, and they're not getting touched by this, at least as far as I know.
Yeah, geez, Shane Dawson. I haven't heard that name in a while. Man, that dude coming out of the closet, least surprising reveal ever.
What's the YouTuber that was like, I'm gay, and then it's like, I'm a tranny? It's like some popular YouTuber. I keep seeing it as a meme, but it was this blonde dude that, I mean, just looks straight up twink.
Yeah, I think that's Gigi Gorgeous, who also made a video about how he had sex with a dog.
Yeah, because, of course, the trilogy had to be complete.
White boy girls fuck dogs.
You couldn't just leave us hanging on part 2 there. You had to. That's the downfall of the godless.
Very lucky or very unlucky to exist at the same time as all of this, because this shit's unprecedented.
I don't know, but at a certain point, either like fire and brimstone is going to have to rain down, or God owes Sodom and Gomorrah an apology.
Yeah, I mean the Sodomites are looking at us down from the lowest circle of hell. They're going like, "Damn, son."
Well, I mean, we don't have door-to-door, rape gangs looking for angels to rape yet, so I don't think we're that far. But I don't know. We're getting there.
When we do, they're going to be dressed as fucking Sonic the Hedgehog or something.
Home Alone on a Friday night. God, you're pathetic. Before they do what they do.
Oh man.
Why don't you go out? We're just roaming the streets. Why are you at home? Why do you have to make us come here and knock on your door?
What are you a rapophobe? If you just yell surprise, it makes it okay.
Isn't there like an old Chinese proverb like "May you live in interesting times," and it's like a curse?
Yeah.
yeah. There you go.
It's alternately attributed to the Chinese or the Cherokee, but same meaning either way.
Yeah.
I just really hope like my fellow evangelicals are right and the rapture is going to happen soon. I just.
Well, I mean, look, we're seeing the precursors to it. As Rick from Rome is Burning said, he said to me on Twitter, like, the demonetization and deplatforming is kind of a precursor to the mark of the beast. And we're seeing people now getting, there's a company in Wisconsin, a bunch of good little whiteys, who are really obedient to the company, really loyal to the company, getting fucking RFID chips implanted into their hands so that they could clock in easier.
Like, I think the badge works just fine. Thank you.
Yeah, same.
But there was a trailer for a movie called The Belko Experiment, where like this company that had chipped all its employees, like it goes into this massive lockdown where these steel doors shut down the whole building, and like somebody on the announcer says, like, there are 60 employees in here. If 30 of you are not dead in 20 minutes, we're gonna kill everybody or something. The chips will explode and stuff. And everybody in the comments was like, I would never let my company do that. And, sure enough, morons are already letting their company do that. I'm like, you just saw a horror movie about that the other day. I've been meaning to see that movie. I thought it looked really good.
Yeah, it's a unique premise.
It's got some actors in it I like too.
And another thing is that, remember a couple months ago, there was this company that was starting trials to revive the dead in Latin America. Reviving the dead.
What could go wrong?
Frankenstein. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, there was Frankenstein, Return of the Living Dead. I mean, there's no, I can't think of any bad scenarios.
Yeah, I'm going to look up the Bible verse that I think this applies to. Hold on. I think it was like Revelation 9:6.
That's the other thing. I saw this when it was like they were trying to do something where they were going to make these two faggots have a baby with each other, like combine their DNA or something. And I remember thinking to myself, look, we can argue about playing God. We could spend hours discussing that because to some extent, all medicine is. So you can argue about where exactly the line is and all. But like in the old days, you used to have these sci-fi stories of genetic engineering where the point of genetic engineering was we were trying to make mankind smarter and stronger and better, And now instead we're trying to give these two faggots a butt baby they'll eventually molest. I mean, if we insist on playing God, can't we at least reach for the stars?
No, we're reaching into the depths.
I mean...
But yeah, it's in Revelation. It says that, and to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months, and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Now, if I'm somebody on some island, back in the the first century or whatever, was having these visions of the apocalypse, and I see this weird sterile medical device stabbing somebody in the face to revive them because the artificial intelligence algorithm says no, their time isn't yet, I would think like, yeah, this seems like prophecy. That, and I know this is like some crazy kind of coast to coast AM shit, but again, like a weird medical device that revives people from the dead continuously who just want to die, I would say that looks kind of like a scorpion.
And you know what? You know what frightens me is that kind of device is going to be cheered on by fucking Christians. Because how many times do I hear some Christian talk about, no, we have to keep this guy on life support even though he's fucking brain dead or he's suffering or something. Because we have to preserve the life at all costs instead of just let this person die with some fucking dignity.
Yeah, you bring up a good point because
it's going to be conservative evangelicals and Catholics that celebrate that shit if it ever comes to be.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point because the prophecies do say like all the world's people will be tricked by this shit, and everybody's going to find a way to rationalize it, including the conservative evangelicals you're talking about.
At this point, the Chinese fucking invading and making us all pull rickshaws almost seems like a fucking something to look forward to.
Well, I mean, you can sit here and be like, this is all just, like Common Phil said, it's coast-to-coast AM shit. But if there's one thing this last year has taught me, it's that Alex Jones was far more right than anyone knew about this conspiracy shit, okay?
Yeah.
If anything, he undersold it. All right. He turned out to be the guy in a horror movie no one believed till it was too late. Like you could be like, oh, Alex Jones is crazy. And then these emails leak and it's like Hillary Clinton literally worships the devil.
And David Icke was right talking about the lizard people running the world. He just got the biology wrong.
Yeah. Well, have you heard about the Podesta Lincoln Park conspiracy theory? That's chilling.
I haven't heard about this.
I've said too much already, but look around. It's crazy.
Well, I really thought there was something to the conspiracy theory that Scalia was murdered. I thought there was a lot of smoke there.
Yeah.
And, everyone's like, well, why would they make it so obvious? I'm like, I don't know, maybe because they thought that, no one could do anything about it.
Well,
because apparently they were right.
The thing is that he is followed up on it. So yeah, it worked.
Yeah. They thought they were untouchable, and apparently they were right.
Right. They made it look like weird enough. So everybody's like, nah, that's too good to be true, and went on their merry way.
Yeah. Because people normally nap with the covers neatly folded up to them and a pillow over their face. A lot of people nap like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I sleep with a pillow over my face all the time. It really helps with airflow.
And then people I had people arguing that to me, like, it's actually really hard to kill a person with a pillow over their face. I'm like, I didn't say he would be killed with a pillow over his face, but a lot of assassins use that as a calling card. They leave a pillow over the face. And if you wanted people to know, but not be able to do anything about it.
Can you think of it this way? People are so stupid that the assassin left the calling card and he's sitting there frustrated, that no one has figured out what he did. No, you fucking idiots. I did kill this guy. It was a calling card. No, whatever. It's I forget who said this, but it's how ISIS terrorists must feel whenever leftists are trying to explain away terrorist attacks. It's like, well, we're killing you in the name of Allah. It's like, no. You're killing because you were, because of white supremacy or because we weren't nice enough. No, we're killing you in the name of Allah. That's what we said.
Well, and it's also got to irritate these terrorists where it's like these people aren't fighting back. They're just lighting up their monuments in the colors of the relevant flag. Well, I saw a news article where it's like on ISIS forums, they're mocking these people like, oh, which nation's flag is the Eiffel Tower going to be lit up in next? And this is well over a year ago at this point.
I thought it was really telling after the one kebab shot up that gay club, where it's like, I mean, what is the most important thing in the world to the liberal? The gays, right? Well, apparently not. Apparently even they'll be thrown under the bus.
The most important thing to conservatives, because think about it, it happened a year after gay marriage was legalized.
Conservatives who were like, oh, we'll defend gay rights.
Right, and it happened a year after fucking gay marriage was legalized. So you tell me what they prioritize. You tell me that the American doesn't fucking worship the state and just agrees with whatever is made law.
Well, I mean, that's a problem with conservatism. I mean, really, you can look at a lot of hell, even, a lot of the sections of the alt-right. You can look at libertarianism. You can even look at progressivism and see that there's a coherent philosophy about what the hell the state and the government should be doing. Whereas with conservatism, there's none of that. Mainstream conservatism has no coherent worldview regarding the nature and purpose of government. And that's why they're never leading the dance, I should say.
They're the last car on the train. It's like a perpetually moving leftward train. They're just on the back of it, saying like, "Whoa, we're back here. It'll just all be back here."
But no, I thought
we're right. We're the most right on a leftward moving thing.
Somebody asked me once, well, why do you think the left, sided with Islam over fags, when push comes to shove? I'm like, because at the end of the day, they'll side with whichever's most destructive. And
well, even they're wrong about
the death of AIDS isn't quite as right to the point as the quick death of being blown up, and they are death worshippers, the left. So
yeah, well, I don't know about that because I do talk to liberals, or did once upon a time. They're friends, and I'd send them articles about how shitty Saudi Arabia was, and it was like this woman saying like, yeah, it's pretty bad, like the law is just gonna take advantage of you. And he shared it with some of his liberal friends, like, oh look how bad these Muslims are over there. So there still is a little bit of a Islamophobia in the left.
Well, what I'm talking about, like I'm talking about the hardcore left. I'm not talking about just a rank and file Democrat who votes Democrat because he quote unquote wants to take care of the little guy or whatever. But the real hardcore SJWs, and the ones that are moving the left in their direction.
Well, I think what they want to do is
the term almost ironically thought leaders among them.
Well, I think what they want to do is like their worldview really hinges upon converting Muslims to liberalism. And there's a really funny Facebook page called High on Liberal Islam. I repost a few of their memes to Twitter, and a lot of it is working. Like they're converting a lot of people. And it's mostly like these Muslims that live in America that are like, oh, I'm liberal. But yeah, they're successful to some extent.
And part of it
away Islam versus, they don't have to take sides versus when it comes to Islam's versus sexual deviance.
Well, part of it with the gays is they have no sense of self-preservation. They have no, it is a death style, as you said. I mean, you saw that Sally Cohn, that one dyke that I think's on MSNBC or something, right after the attack, she was like, well, yeah, but the real crime is that Christians wouldn't bake me a dildo cake or something like that. And it's like you literally, your amygdala is so shriveled you can't tell the difference between the person wanting to kill you and the person who just doesn't want to celebrate your sickness.
Well, if they could tell the difference, they wouldn't be sodomites. The mere state of being a sodomite is in and of itself a death wish. I mean, they literally crave self-destruction. That is why they're all radical leftists. That's why they engage in the lifestyle that they do. That's why even despite the fact that anal sex is by far the most risky sexual activity you can engage in, an activity that as they practice it, always leads to fucking death. They can't stop. Their entire lives are nothing but slow motion suicide.
Yeah, never mind AIDS. Habitual anal sex will completely destroy your body.
I mean, ask Grindr Greg Johnson how's that's going.
But that's a good point. You talk about the death wish and all. I mean, think about it. All these gays are leftists, right? And when I was a little bit less, shall we say, woke on the homosexual question, I used to say to myself, why aren't gays all libertarians? I mean, big governments have almost always lined those fuckers up against the wall earliest chance they got. You'd think they'd be against big government. But again, it comes back to a death wish. They're going to actually support Marxism when Marxist governments are some of the first to line them up against the wall? Because, newsflash, homosexuals don't make the best cogs in the machine.
Well, yeah, it's like the early Marxists qualified sodomy as quintessentially bourgeoisie, and they're right. It is really only an upper crust thing.
But think about it. These people have such a death wish. They are literally yearning for a political system that will almost immediately have them lined up against the wall.
That's also where you get Nazi fetishism in the gay community. The popular conception of Nazism is as like this grand, glorious failure. It's death and whatnot, and sodomites worship death. And they also, Nazis were known as, basically bullies. They killed Jews and they took over Europe. And gays are just sexually attracted to men who are going to offer them self-destruction. That's why that's why Nazism, the far right, the alt right, and homosexuality are one of the main reasons why it's all linked. And you can actually see
they're also huge bullies themselves.
Yeah, good point.
And you brought up this good point, and I was thinking the same thing. Like, so many of these people on the alt right, and I had one of them say this to me in a comment thread, like, I think a good, if you're going to go towards a dictator of the past, is a good example of, what you'd like to see a far right government do. I think a good example is Pinochet, because what did he do? He threw out the subversive fucking communists out of fucking helicopters, indeed, and to this day, his nation is better off for it. And yet, I've had alt-righters be like, no, Pinochet was a loser. Hitler was awesome. And I had one alt-writer be like, all Pinochet did was get rid of some people who just wanted to unionize.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And then it's like, no, but Hitler was awesome. Well, you know what? Hitler, what's his country like right now? His country is a shithole that probably won't exist in 50 years. And I'm primarily German heritage. That breaks my heart. But it is what it is.
Well, you're not going to get the Hitler worship to go away because they've got this grand, glorious myth of like, Hitler as being this grand leader who was stabbed in the back by the Jews and the Allies and all this, which is it's very appealing to the degenerate mind. There's also the intersection of occult thinking there as well, because back in the 60s, there was this weird, absurd belief that Aleister Crowley and Hitler were working together to come up with occult music, occult spells and all that shit. That's where you get all these Nazi exploitation films in the 70s and the idea that and in more tame forms like the Indiana Jones movies. Well, but at the opposite end of the spectrum, you have Crowley talking about how anal sex is the way to satanic power, and that got very into Nazism.
Part of that's real. Hitler did waste a tremendous amount of resources having his men chase down all these weird occult shit. That's part of what inspired Indiana Jones. He had men trying to find the Holy Grail and shit. Like, you could have scammed that idiot for money. You could have been like, hey, Hitler, I hear there's like a monkey god statue in the rainforest in Brazil. So like, if I get it to you, it'll give you like monkey god powers, right? And then you just take your Nazi gold and you just hang out on a beach in Brazil for the rest of your days. Well, and also during the war, you got to write him a letter like, Dear Hitler, things are going fine. We're almost on to it. Please send more gold.
And think about this too, the connection with the occult. Indians really like Hitler for some reason, and think about their weird fucking religion.
Yeah,
I think they call him like some Indians, like a lot of them call him like the reincarnation of Vishnu or some shit.
Well, that was seeded in by Savitri Devi in the Lightning in the Sun in the 50s. She was this nutjob lesbian Nazi who helped spy on Allied forces and called Hitler the greatest man in human history. Like your typical crazy cat lady. Grinder Greg Johnson is very fond of her, from what I hear.
God. And it's like, why Hitler of all things? Like the most basic default knee-jerk thing that you'd call somebody that you don't like. That's what the left does. So everybody's Hitler, and they want to prove them right. Well, we're totally about that. Like, how little imagination do you have?
Well, there you get the overlap of Satanism, going back to the gay Nazi Tumblr blogs. Hitler is basically the Satan of our godless civilization. So if you're these people who worship death are innately attracted to him as for the evil that he represents in the popular mind. You have on these gay Nazi Tumblr blogs, there was one was like, reblog if you suck Satan cock, or reblog if you devote your life to Satan, or shit like that,
And again, you could sit here and have an actual discussion of the actual nuance of World War II and all that kind of stuff, but that's just purely academic. If you're seriously trying to bring a movement to change things, you can't have fucking Nazi symbolism all over it, because it doesn't matter to some extent what World War II was or wasn't. In the popular mind, the Nazis are the cartoon characters that fight Captain America and Indiana Jones, and they're never going to be anything else.
Yeah.
You might as well be dressed up like Cobra from G.I. Joe.
It is ridiculous, and it just goes to show you that they have nothing left to offer, that they always have to bring back not just things from the past, but the losers from the past. They have nothing to offer in the present. And this is something I just recorded an episode of Commonfield Radio before I got on here, and I talked about this. I'll talk about it again. Think about it. I grew up sympathizing with these people with the Confederate flag stickers on their pickup trucks that said, it says heritage, not hate. And I always agreed with that, because Abraham Lincoln was a racist himself, and the Civil War wasn't about slavery. So yeah, you know what? This isn't like some evil symbol, but guess what? All these retards at this rally protesting the removal of these statues and monuments, guess what? They're constantly screaming about how much they hate black people. Why do you think they like the South?
Well, I saw a tweet today that was just, And I couldn't retweet it because it was like a screen cap on Facebook. So, and I didn't hunt it down, but it just said like, step back for a moment and realize we are about to start a second civil war over statues from the first Civil War.
This is stupid as shit. And the people on the Confederate side are people who are like, slavery, man. We need to enslave all brown people. That's the only reason why they fucking defend this shit. Given that the organizers of this garbage are all Yanks themselves.
Well, again, it's like the Nazi thing in that you could have a civilized discussion over the fact that history is not the cartoon we've made it out to be. But the fact is, these guys see it as the cartoon, and they're siding with the cartoon supervillain.
Yeah, and again, it evolves back into this thing where these deviants they're like vultures. They only circle around things that are already dying or dead.
All Richard Spencer needs at this point is a fucking mustache to twirl. And I would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for your meddling Antifa and you stupid dog.
He could tie Laura Southern to a train track. But no, and you talk about a failure of leader. Like, and all you people are like, oh, Spencer's great. This was a rousing success. I want you to step back for a moment and realize this was a march to defend Confederate monuments. And as a result of it, the rate at which Confederate monuments are defaced and torn down has accelerated.
Are you tired of winning yet?
Yeah. That's not winning. Okay. You lost there.
Illinois, the Illinois State Senate passed a measure saying like classifying white supremacists as a terrorist group. Are you tired of winning yet?
I don't know how many dimensional chess Richard Spencer's playing.
He's actually playing 1488 backgammon.
No, he's playing gay tiddlywinks. That's what it is.
He's playing Rochambeau, and he didn't go first. All right. Well, I think we've rambled on for a while here. I think this turned out to be a pretty good show. Common Phil, thanks for being on. You know, you're always welcome on here. It's always great having you.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Forney, thanks for being on. You know, I look forward to all the Nazi LARPers in the comment threads telling me what a cuck I am. But
enjoy pound me in the ass prison, my friends. Don't drop the stope and stay away from those black people you think are so inferior.
You know, I said this Monday, and I'll say it again real quick because I know more people listen to the Saturday show than the weekday show. I am a person who is very simple. I don't call myself a white nationalist. I've never taken as absolute a stance on race as a lot of the white nationalists have. But I recognize that the elites are waging a war on white people, and I don't care for it. And I am sympathetic to the concerns and the goals of white nationalism, and I want to root for you guys. If nothing else, I want things to be dragged a little bit in that direction. But I can't root for you guys. And here's what you have to ask yourself. You can sit here and call me a cuck all you want. You can sit here and call me any fucking name in the book. You know, my opinion doesn't count because one time I jerked off to a picture of a black girl. Whatever the fuck you want to think, all right? But at the end of the day, I am the kind of person that you need to fucking convince. You can be mad about the fact that your product isn't selling, or you can wonder why your product isn't selling, because I am a person that's sympathetic to you and still can't get on board. And there's a lot of other people like me. And they just can't support you guys. And I mean, again, you can sit here and call me a cuck all you want. I've spent most of this week arguing with cuck-servatives about, you know, the fact that white nationalism is not the same thing as white supremacy, that it is incredibly hypocritical for you to support Israel and think white nationalism is something that can't be discussed in polite conversation because, you know, why do Jews deserve a homeland and not whites? Explain that to me. I've spent the week arguing with cuck-servatives about this shit all week, defending you idiots. And yeah, when I get on this mic, I know that I'm talking primarily to you, so I'm harder on you. There's not a lot of cuck-servatives going to come listen to the Bechtloff podcast. So that's why I don't shit on them as much here, because I'm talking to you. So again, you can sit here, you call me whatever the fuck you want to call me. Oh, you're just a man-child because you like video games and stuff. We don't have to listen to you. That was all the Spencer Dick writers in my mentions, by the way. We're all like, oh, you have a Pokemon avatar. You can't call Spencer gay or whatever the fuck. You can sit here and be mad at me all you want. But if you actually give a shit about your cause, you need to ask yourself why you are alienating people who should be rooting for you. So that's your choice. You could sit here and be mad at me because I'm not buying your product and people like me, or you can wonder why I'm not. And that's what I'll leave you guys with. So again, you want to call me whatever fuck you want to call me in the comments, you go right ahead. You know, the more comments I get, the more people are likely to notice a video. So go right ahead. I always say like, comment, and subscribe. I didn't say comment to, you know, kiss my ass. So you want to call me a cuck in the comments, go right ahead. But yeah, you got to ask yourself that. You know?
TLDR, we're right, you're wrong, deal with it, crybabies.
Yeah. So that's what I leave you guys with. I know there's a lot of white nationalists in my audience. I know it. And guys, you can be mad at me for pointing out what's wrong here, or you can take a look at what's wrong. Because maybe I'm a cuck or not, whatever, but I'm either right or I'm wrong. You know, the criticism is either valid or not, regardless of who it comes from. So that's what I'm going to leave you all with. Common Filth, Forney, thank you both for being on. You're always welcome on here. Always great to have you. And, you know, go to church in the morning, you heathens. That's all we got for this week. Bechtloff out.